What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazique, aka UniqueMazique, the hardest working man in sports and gaming, and this is the 20th episode of Add Me Bro. I think that's pretty awesome. What do y'all think?
I like it.
20 episodes.
Let's go. Yo, you know what? Let me say thank you to the people.
Yes.
We've received tremendous support. Like for those, if you're really new to the channel, you don't know, we started on Mazique's channel. Some of these videos have really, really gotten a lot of support. And we kind of reset the counter on this channel. When we formed its own channel, our goal was 10,000 views, and y'all blew that out of the water so fast that we wound up starting the channel. And for 20 episodes, the support has been tremendous. Thank you to everybody who's been watching the show, giving us feedback, asking us questions, all that stuff. Thanks so much.
Absolutely, yes. And please don't hesitate to leave a like on the video if you do indeed like it. Just trust us. If you like the ones before, you probably like this one. But yeah, 20 episodes. This is just a lot of people don't get to 20 nothing. People don't get 20/20 vision. People ain't got $20. People can't stand you for 20 minutes at a time. It's a lot of 20s that don't go. But this 20 works, 20 times. All right. So now I got a couple of requests to y'all. I want y'all to make sure that you get any questions that you have for Ask Us Bro. Get that into the chat, because we will be taking questions exclusively for Ask Us Bro. Mr. Heath 2013 says, is this the normal time for the stream? It's actually about 5 minutes, about 25 minutes later than normal, because we would normally go up at 9 Eastern time. And so this time we actually went up a little bit later. Apologies for that. But the stream will always be up on this channel. And then after that, my producer, which is my wife, she goes ahead and cuts it up into separate segments. So if you want to specifically listen to one subject that we talk about, you can do that. So generally, I like to put the table of contents in the description of the video. I didn't do that this time. Haven't done that since we've been going live, because we have decided to go live every time pretty much for all the episodes, as opposed to pre-recording it. Just seems to be a little bit more organic that way. So yeah, but that answers that. So like I said, throw questions in the chat so we can have some stuff that we can get at for Ask Us Bro. But I got some stuff that we just kind of want to go over. First and foremost, well, first let me ask you, Books, did you have something that you wanted to touch on? I know you had talked about a couple things.
Well, first and foremost, I want the people to make sure that they're going out to watch your streams when you stream my team, any kind of foolishness out there. This is some of the funniest stuff I've ever seen. First of all, y'all know he got a talent for comedy. That's actually how I first saw his content. We met on the Sim Hangout, but I was already subscribed to his channel way before that. I remember the first funny line he had said was when his creative player, he said his neck looked like the back of looked like a pack of Franks.
It did. And now the back of my neck looked like a pack of Franks.
So yeah, I mean, sometimes even when I'm not like on the clock or anything, I'll just pop into the stream. I don't even say nothing most of the time, but he starts saying something crazy, I'll pop in the chat and drive him nuts for a minute. But those streams are genuinely some of the funniest things on the internet. Y'all know I don't like giving him props for nothing, so I'm being absolutely real with this.
Yeah,
that is funny stuff. And doing the opposite of giving him props, it's absolutely the best when he plays and loses, which happens often.
Oh, here we go.
That's what y'all need to show up for. It's all about watching him work all night to get this Vince Carter card, playing with Vince Carter, and then losing with Pink Diamond Vince Carter. That is just that's the best.
Well, see,
best content on YouTube.
There it is, the thing. There it is, right there. Because see, this is just like the Negro race. This is just like the Negro race. They give you a little something and they take it right back. You know what I'm saying? You say you did something good and then somebody come and slap you. It's just wrong. But you know what? I actually didn't lose all night. I did end up getting
you win some, you lose some.
Right. But you live, Craig.
But let's be real. Let's be real. When you lose,
you win some and you lose some. But you live, Craig. You live.
But B, why don't you be honest with the people? How many of your losses happen after you up by at least 8-10 points?
What happened to see? First and foremost, here's how this happens.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like what happened. Like I don't know what it is, but I lost. I lost an 18-4 lead on Triple Threat Online.
Which is hard to do in 2K.
I don't understand what happened. Something went horrible. Like it was terrible. And the person was not good, man. I don't understand what happened, but it just went straight to hell. And I couldn't get it back. But it's okay. It's okay. I got over it. I did.
Oh, yeah, no, you got to bounce back.
I didn't let it kill me. I said, this shall not defeat me. No, it shan't.
Oh, and by the way, guys, while we're plugging content, I've been receiving a lot of support on Instagram. Make sure you guys check out my Instagram. If you are at all into comics or artwork or
look at it anyway. If you ain't into it, look at it anyway. What's wrong with you?
I joined Instagram, I think last year. I wasn't super active on it, but I'm much more active on it now. And I mean, people have been really encouraging me to do so with all the support. So thanks for all of y'all who follow me over there. And if you want to see what I do for my day job, check that stuff out.
Yeah. So the last one is the Ashlar picture.
Yes. Yeah. That was a quick sketch. I forgot I even did that.
Yeah. And then is this the African American image? Definitely looking forward to the new Overwatch character. That's what I thought it was. Baptiste. That's why I thought it was Baptiste, but I wasn't sure. Yeah. This is good stuff. So, matter of fact, I could probably they probably won't let me screen share. Last time I tried to screen share, the world blew up. Let me see. Last time I tried to screen share, the whole entire world went straight to hell, and we didn't want it. Man, they want you to log. I don't want to log in here.
I think you got a different joint than I do because my
you got to. I don't know if you have to be no, you shouldn't have to be the one that started. I hear some like whistling in the background. It's making me nervous. I feel
that's not me.
Because I just came from seeing Us, so I don't know what. I don't know exactly what's going on.
So I think I'm screen sharing now, so you guys can see some of it.
I see there. You screen sharing me.
It should load on. Oh no, it's wrong. It's the window that I'm sharing.
Yeah, it's the window you screen sharing.
Let's try this again.
Now that's you.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
It was there. I gotta be quiet. Which is difficult.
So you guys can follow that Instagram, see all of the artwork and so on and so forth. Like I said, people have been pretty supportive, and I appreciate that. So I just want to thank you guys for that.
Ooh, that's really dope. Who was that with the Halle Berry with collagen?
It's a random painting I did to warm up my painting skills. So my coloring and painting is what I've been working on a lot in the background. Coloring, painting, and cartoon.
Yeah, I saw the buck naked Invisible Girl. I saw.
Yeah. Private time.
Gotta get it. Nasty time. Nasty time with Invisible Girl. Mazique, she said I'm having a good shirt day.
Yeah, the Black Panther.
I didn't iron it, so this is my Black Panther shirt. We got Bobby Seals on here and Huey P. Newton. I don't know if that's Fred Hampton in the back, but I don't know. And it's so funny because I just took my son to the DuSable Museum. I don't know if y'all from Chicago or whatever, but it's the DuSable Museum of African History. So it's pretty cool. I've been so many times, like tons of times. So we went yesterday. So I maybe subconsciously I'm still feeling extra black today. But I feel extra black every day pretty much. But you know how it is. So anyway. All right, let's go.
All right, guys, we're gonna get to it. We just want to.
This is part of the show.
We all fans and friends.
This is what we gotta do. You gotta do it. Get up, Craig. Get up, Craig. That was for crazy. That was for crazy girl. She know what I'm talking about. Get up, Craig. Come on, get up, Craig. Get up.
I know what you're talking
about. What's going on? 1989. All right. So another thing I gotta tell y'all. It is time for me to switch barbers. It's time, and I'm going to tell you why. And for all of y'all who are laughing, sitting up here talking about why are you going to the barber? That's your first mistake. You're very disrespectful. I go to the barber because I still have hair on my face, so But I did go to the barber one day, and I walked in, and the man said, "Can I help you?" What do you mean, can you help me? You should ask me, do I have an appointment or something? Or who am I here to see? Don't ask me, can I hear you help me because I don't have no hair and you know I'm not here for no haircut. That's how I felt. That's how I took that. Because but that ain't why I needed a new barber. So I need a new barber because my barber, do anybody who go to a barbershop have this situation, right? Everybody knows finding out a good barber is really tough, right? The ones who are really, really skilled are usually horrible when it comes to professionalism and time management. I had a barber once who I would make an appointment with him. I would show up at the shop. I'd call him and I'd be like, dude, where you at? He'd be like, I'm at home. Can you come pick me up?
That's a Chicago thing.
I said, what?
It ain't like that in New York.
Homie, I'm at the shop. Like, how you gonna tell me to come get you? What is going on? So it was so now he was the best.
New York is just like coming to America. Like you know, you have your spot, but you walk into your spot and it's a bunch of dudes just talking trash. The only difference is there's a lot more Latino barbers now than there used to be.
Yeah.
So it's spread. I mean, but still, I mean, there's a lot of black barbers still, but it's still that same environment, man.
Yeah, I mean, you can still see the same environment, but I mean, I'm telling you, it's hard to find somebody who is both good and prompt. Right. So it's very difficult. So and then like, you know, I'm a little older now and there's certain things in the atmosphere I don't want to deal with. Like, I don't want to go to the barbershop and you smoking weed and all kinds of crazy stuff going on. You know, because I'm taking my 13-year-old with me. And it's certain, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to bring him into no environment that I don't endorse. Right. That's just the way that's just my style of parenting. I know you're going to see whatever you're going to see, but what I'll take you to is what I endorse. So I try to, you know, go to a decent, what I consider a decent environment. So I got one, right? It's really, the environment's great. But I got this one barber who, he kind of one of them, sit on down here and get your haircut, boy, kind of barbers, right? And he don't listen. So today, my son told him, so my son has been working on his waves for a good amount of time, and they came in real good. They in there tight. So he goes in there today and he says, how you want it? He said, I want it lower, just lower like you usually do it. So I don't know what my man heard, but my man heard shave it as low down as low as he can shave it.
Man,
so I'm looking at how low he taking it, and I'm like, I said, whoa, I said, that's how low you wanted it? And my son was like, yeah, it's and I'm looking like, I don't know if you know how low it is. So it's so low that you can still see the wave pattern. So the waves are actually still there, but not like it was, and not like how I know how he wanted it. So when my son got home, I go in the room and I hear him in front of the mirror going, "Oh no!"
Oh man! Oh, that's when you young. Let me tell you something. I had bad haircuts when I was older. But it wasn't nearly as bad as when you were younger and you got to go to school with a haircut you don't like.
Yeah,
that's
no. I mean, it looks good.
Yeah, it's just if you don't like it.
Yeah, it's not what he wanted, right?
Yeah.
So I have been contemplating changing barbers for a minute, and I think this might actually have to be the thing that makes me. But here's the thing: there's another barber in the shop, and he owns the shop. And he cut my son's hair once when this guy was on vacation, and we loved it. But, you know, there's a thing in the barbershop where it's like, okay, you can't switch from one barber to the next barber in the same shop because that creates confusion amongst the barbers, right? So I want to ask y'all let me know in the chat, what do y'all think? Do y'all think I should switch barbers in the same shop, or should I just switch the entire shop? Because that's where we at right now. Is one of the two. So y'all
I would switch the entire shop.
Yeah, see, that's what some people are saying.
Inside the shop, that's politics, man. I ain't trying to have no Game of Thrones in the barbershop. You know what I mean?
Right. And I really like the shop, which is a shame too, because I like the feel, right?
If you really like it, I might try that first just to see how it goes. There's no harm, no foul. But if you don't like how it goes when you switch barbers, definitely get up on it.
Yeah, man. You got to do it. I mean, you know, and obviously it ain't as much on the line for me.
Why? Whatever do you mean, Brian?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't have as much skin in the game because I have a lot of skin showing. So it just is what it is. But you know, that's it. So let's talk about what we normally talk about, right? All right. So MLB The Show just came out. 1989. I know he loves that. And I do have a baseball channel, which I have not been throwing out there a lot to people because I kind of wanted it to build it organically and that sort of thing. But I have a channel pretty much that all I do is post baseball. It's very, very new. I just kicked it off really. So if you do get an opportunity to take a look at that, it's basically Mazique on baseball. I can actually throw the link into the description. So I've been playing the baseball a lot, pretty much as I always do. I actually, you guys probably wouldn't believe this, but my first love as a sport was baseball. Like I used to actually dislike basketball because now I grew to be 6'5", but I used to be really short, and like I was short for a long time. And so I don't know, maybe that's why I didn't like basketball. I don't know. So, but baseball was my thing. And I was actually pretty decent at it. So I've been playing it on there. I put the link to the channel in the description. And I don't know, Nelson, you said that you were going to give it a chance this year.
Yes.
So I don't know if
in fact, I haven't played it yet, but my buddy Jason Battle, aka Amuse Create Bay Area Mine online, he's been playing, and I was getting a lot of information from him about it, seeing how he liked it. He loves it, first of all, and I am going to get into it. As you know, I'm in those division streets right now, and I do have a full-time job. So I played a little bit of 2K this week. I haven't played any division yet at all this week. My gaming time has been really low. Because of work. So, but I anticipate getting into the show probably this summer. It won't be super soon, but I'll probably get in there this summer.
Yeah. I don't know. You have to tell me what mode you're looking at trying first.
Road to the show, 100%.
Road to the show. Okay. So I'm gonna tell you if it's cool. I'll tell you kind of like I'll give you a little bit of a,
okay. Yeah, educate me and the people. Let's go.
With Road to the Show, right? You know how a lot of people are tired of 2K's My Career story, right? They feel like they are kind of held hostage, so to speak, by the story. And they're like, hey, I just want to kind of break loose. If you play Road to the Show for a few years in a row, you'll get to the point where you miss that story.
Okay.
Because Road to the you know what's really interesting about the show? And I've been kind of writing this and touching on this in the articles that I've been writing about the game. It is amazing how this game, in its brilliance, still has some of the same problems that Major League Baseball has, right? Major League Baseball's biggest issue right now is its the perception that the game is boring, that the game is slow, that the game is dull or bland. And that is pretty much what dogs MLB The Show. Like I know Ronnie 2K is not necessarily everybody's favorite person in the public, and like a lot of people, like they feel like he might get on their nerves or whatever, but you see his purpose when you see other sports video game vehicles that don't have a face on social media. And the show doesn't have a face really. Like Ramon Russell is the closest thing to it, but you don't ever feel, to me personally, and this is coming from somebody who has been following the game forever, right? You don't get the feeling that they are ever really giving you any real information. And then when they do their Twitch streams, they are like, the guys are really nice and they're likable, you know, but it's so bland, bro. It's like listening to, I don't know. It's like listening to like a really boring audiobook or something. Like it's bland. And the stagnation in Road to the Show in that mode itself, it not much of it has changed over the years, right? they tried to dance around having a story by kind of putting in some text-based stuff. And this year they implemented the personality traits where you can be like a maverick, you can be a heart and soul, you can be a captain, and then there's one other one. And then that's supposed to kind of shape your relationships and your conversations as you move through your career. But none of it really moves the needle overall in adding some flavor to a mode that is desperately in need of some flavor. Now,
so, all right, let me ask you a question. Let's hold on that point for a second. So keep your thought. So a mode that I've played through this year, probably 5 times maybe, was UFC's career mode.
Okay.
And this was the reason I played through it so many times was mainly to try different styles and to fight against different fighters in different weight divisions.
Right.
Right. Now, the thing about that mode, it reminded me of way back in like almost the 2K9 days to a degree, where there was no story, really. The story is just your progress. That made it easy to play the mode over and over because the story never got in your way. And it was more like, really like the division, where I'm just chasing the next upgrade the entire time. And the game just needs to give me a little splash of feedback to make that upgrade more enjoyable, right? Make that next step more enjoyable. Right. So when you go to a prospect level, the game gives you a little reward. When you knock somebody out, they show you the GIF on, Twitter, the video game Twitter. They give you a little reward. Does the show do that well? And what does it need beside that if it does it well?
It does do that well, actually.
Okay.
That it does very well. And you know what makes it what feature that I wish all sports video games would copy that it does really well is it has carryover saves, right? So you start your road to the show guide. You could have started it on MLB to the show 14. And you could literally be carrying over that same character year over year throughout their entire career until they retire, which is freaking awesome.
That is awesome.
I mean, just freaking awesome, right? Like, I really feel like that is I've actually talked to people at 2K about doing that and why they don't do that. And I've been told that there are some limitations that come if you do that from a player model standpoint and that sort of thing, because it can't change too much because it has to be transferable. But I would argue that 2K's player models haven't changed that much anyway.
Well, you know what? Even if they had, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And my thing is, if I was just able to play on the same team I left, had my stats transfer over, had my general archetype and role on the team transfer over, and play the next part of that player's career. So instead of playing the rookie the first 2 years, I'm moving into that next contract. And they had a late game. So like, my late game endorsement deals, my late game, power in the league, my late game social media stuff, all of that stuff I had access to. If my player face changes or I got to reformat my wingspan to make it transfer over, I don't care. Just give me something.
You're right.
And the thing is, that might not even be the first thing I do. Y'all might have an awesome My Career story where I say, hey, I want to start a new character. And then after I get bored of that character, I might go, I want to play last year's character now.
Yes.
I want to bring that. I want to do the import game and bring that character along and not have that time go completely reset at the end of the year.
Dude, I've been saying that for the last 5 or 6 years. I've been pitching and asking for that with 2K for the last 5 or 6 years. I just think that it's the right thing to do from a customer reward standpoint. People put a lot of work into those characters, and a lot of time into those characters, and to have it just completely go away every year, I could see, you lose some points, maybe 5 overall points or something that you got to build it back up.
You could go one way or the other. Either you could give me no attributes and all my badges are there, or you could give me all the attributes that I got to re-earn my badges. That's fine, but give me something.
Yeah, give me something. But
give me something. Yeah. Maybe my badges get knocked down to bronze or silver or whatever, but give me something.
Yeah, I would agree. But yeah, it does. The show definitely does that well. And like 1989 just pointed out, the carryover saves are also for franchise mode as well. So that is there. So
I think it's even more important for franchise.
Oh, it absolutely is more important. I mean, I don't know. I think it's equally as important. I think it's equally as dope, just period. you know, no matter which one it is, because you can get really attached to the player, and then you can also get attached to the history that you've built up. Now, there is one thing from a carryover standpoint that I think the show should do that they have not done yet, and they should have carryover roster saves. So say, for instance, like, because there are people, you think there's some elaborate NBA 2K rosters. There are some insanely elaborate custom MLB rosters. And to think that a person has to go and recreate that over every year, I think is kind of whack. I think you should be able to carry those over each year. You know, so if I created a full roster set that isn't necessarily attached to a franchise mode, it's just a roster. There's no reason in my mind that I shouldn't be able to carry that over or convert that over to the next year. And like you said, if there's a minor thing where I gotta, like, you know, with the carryovers this year, it messes up the hair and I gotta fix the hair for certain people, all the blondes or all the whatever, then that whatever. It's fine.
It's better than nothing.
It's better than starting from scratch.
Something in chat real quick. Be the boss. He said, "What up, boss?" He said, "2K wants the microtransactions." This is something I'm trying to get communicated to 2K. If anybody from 2K is watching this show, seriously, people spend. Free-to-play games are already showing you this.
Yes.
When you give people something, they're willing to spend their money on more. You don't have to give people nothing so that they have to spend their money on something. That makes them pinch their pennies and stay stingy on it. And now that the shine is wearing off of 2K, now that everybody's really used to the animal of what 2K is, I think it's more important to allow people to spend their money on happiness rather than necessity. Instead of forcing us to spend our money on the first 4 dribbling upgrades, which our characters should always have across the board. Ain't nobody, no point guard in the NBA with a 45 dribble, 2K. Stop it, right? Like, instead of that being your mentality, you have, like, there's so many sneakerheads out there who won't really spend VC on their sneakers because they need that for boosts or for their characters or every time they make a new character. You have other things people can spend money on. You need to make them feel free to spend it by tightening up the grip a little bit. You'll get your microtransactions.
Man, I sat and watched the dude on a video yesterday because here's a little known thing about the latest patch for 2K. Everybody thought, like, you know, the only thing that came through was the no taking it out to pushing, right? But 2K also added in do-rags.
Oh, I thought that was a mod. I saw that online.
No, I don't think it was a mod. I think it was actually for real. And I sat and watched the dude literally buying every single do-rag.
Yeah, of course. And this is what I'm talking about.
You know,
if your content is cool enough, imagine if you had a hoodie you could pull up and put down in 2K, like in the game. I know you could do it in the menu screen, but I'm saying like in the game. People would, you know what I'm saying? People like that kind of stuff, man. So, you know, that's the kind of stuff that they need to add. They need to, like, stuff like the skateboard being $1 billion and the 60,000 VC for the bike. That's why ain't no bikes. Right. You only see one bike every few days, and it's on like a 97 overall who ran out of money to spend. And he got to that 97 overall by throwing 400 to 600 hours into this game. Easy.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. That's not, everybody should be running around on bikes. Like, because think about it. Like, like saying in Destiny, right? People will gather around in a circle with their emotions. They have all these choreographed dances online and like in the YouTube videos, and it's just community stuff that Bungie retweets, and it creates this good feeling. We will have bike troops circling around, doing little mini 2K bike tricks. It wouldn't be Tony Hawk. It would just be a little something, you know, y'all throw together while y'all waiting for your friend to join up. And people will have YouTube videos on that. People will be jumping in streams doing that. But ain't nobody got no bikes because ain't nobody throwing 60,000 VC on a bike when they just made a new character because they wanted to play a sharpshooter.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I think just overall, I think you could also make the same case for my team, but we could do that at that's a whole separate segment.
We're gonna be talking more my team on this show as the year goes on.
Yeah, for sure, and especially rolling into 2K20 because I'm interested in seeing what happens with that. But yeah, with the show though, road to the show. Here's the thing: all of those things I said are really true in terms of some of the setbacks, But at the end of the day, you get to play the show.
Yeah.
In road to the show. And
Yeah.
because their gameplay is the absolute best part of their game, which obviously there could be much worse things, right?
Yeah.
The gameplay is the best part of the game. I'm gonna tell y'all something, and I said this in my review, and I 100% mean this. Of all of the sports games in existence, and I have literally played all of them, whether it's a small one or a big one, MLB The Show has the most realistic, aligned with the sport that it emulates,
That's what
gameplay that there is out there. There 2K does not nail basketball the way the show nails baseball. Madden does not nail football the way the show nails baseball. WWE doesn't nail wrestling the same way. FIFA don't even nail soccer the same way. Pro Evolution doesn't nail soccer the same way. Even as much as I love EA UFC, it certainly doesn't nail MMA the way that the show nails baseball. So at the end of the day, even when there's all of these things that I shouldn't say all of these things. There's a few things that stick out that I don't like about the show, right? And most of it is about stagnation. But good gameplay is the thing that, that really compensates for a multitude of deficiencies. Because you can be slow in a couple areas if your gameplay is as tight as this is.
So, I mean, you definitely sold me on it. I'm like you and Jay sold me on it. I'm gonna definitely pick it up this year. Probably wait for this division stuff to calm down a little bit, and that might be my next thing I get into.
Yeah, it's good.
I love career modes. So let me ask you, as a career mode fan, what position would you suggest the most in getting into it?
If you want a challenge, shortstop.
Okay.
If you want to mostly hit and not have to really be worried about how bad you might be in the field, then I would say left field. Because if you're a shortstop is like you're gonna get a lot of balls. And there's more responsibility. You have to really be cognizant of the base path situation, where everybody is, or how many outs there are, just it's you gotta, because a certain situation. And then like for me, like I turn off what they call showtime. Showtime is the sports equivalent of bullet time from the John Woo games.
Oh, okay.
I turn that crap off.
Yeah, that's not.
That sucks. That's not sports.
That's not sim.
I turn that totally off. So, and I feel good. I mean, I love it. But then, I really have fun playing player lock, because player lock is essentially road to the show without the story.
And in that, you're in a situation where, since the story of Road to the Show isn't this big production like my career,
you don't miss that much.
It's less of a difference. After the show, I want to have a brief conversation with you about that. I got one more question. How's the tutorial?
Very good. Very good. Now, because I've been playing the game for decades, or over a decade, it gets on my nerves because I don't really need it. And here's a great thing about the show. And I know I'm just gushing over the show, but here's a great thing about the show. The show never forces you to take their newfangled gameplay thing.
Okay.
Right. So if you have been enjoying this game for years, playing this way, they never take it out. They never take it out. So they'll say, okay, here's the new thing we did. Do you like it? If you don't, be like, I'm going back to the other thing. Yeah. Fine. And you still enjoy to play the game the way it was to begin with. Because I still use meter for pitching, and I still use zone hitting. The other thing is, the Madden did this 1 year and then stopped. They have dynamic difficulty.
Oh yeah.
So that in itself.
So as you get better the game.
Right. So that in itself, how you were talking about how the achievements are the story, or kind of replace the story. When you have it on dynamic difficulty, you're on this journey to get to like legend difficulty or whatever difficulty. And then you'll notice you might blow through the rookie part real quick, like by the third or fourth inning. Like if you really play the game and this is like your 8th or 7th year playing the game, by the third inning, you're already blown past those first ones because you hit like 4 or 5 home runs already, And the cool thing is they never turn dynamic difficulty off. So it's on in every single mode. So if you're doing exhibition, it's on. If you're doing it. So this is judging your literal your skill level in every aspect of the game. So I think it's like dope. It's really dope.
Quick chat shout out. Crazy Girl said that her next purchase is Mortal Kombat. Invitation to everybody in Sim Nation. If y'all want this work, let me know. I will also be picking up Mortal Kombat, and we can have some fun in some lobbies. If y'all about that life, I extend that to Brian and Junior, who I know is also a player.
Yes. Actually, I'm actually supposed to be getting a closed beta invitation. They hit me up about it. About 2 or 3 days ago. I haven't gotten it yet. I think they said that I would get it by today, but I don't think I got it yet. So we'll see. But so that's that on the show. Digging it. So we talking about fighting. I mean, we done going from we was playing baseball, then we started talking about fighting, Mortal Kombat. So let's talk about some real fighting.
Let's do it.
The UFC. Now listen. Let me say something to the chat. Right now, I know that the majority of y'all in the chat are basketball fans and sports gaming fans, and I know that sometimes we start talking about UFC and y'all get quiet like a hooker in church. Y'all get quiet. So here's the thing: if we start talking about this and we start really getting into UFC and we're talking about it today, if y'all got a question about something, if you just I understand it may not be a huge interest in it. If with a lot of people, it's one of the things. But listen, if you got a question about it, you like, man, well, who is so-and-so? Like, I love to talk UFC. Say, hey, what in the world is that? Who is that? Why should I care about that? He sucks or whatever. Say something, give me something. Don't y'all just go dead. Even if you feel to the point you like, you know what, I really wish they would stop talking about UFC. If that's how y'all feel, say it in the chat, and then I have to listen. We have to listen to y'all, and then maybe we just stop. But I don't want y'all to go quiet because Mike Smith just said, "Yep." So I'm, you know what I'm saying. We don't discourage feedback. We don't discourage it. We embrace it. But Sean wants more at UFC. All right. So here's the thing. There were a ton of fights announced yesterday. I thought it was like some type of April Fool's joke. It was just fights everywhere being announced. Now, one of the fights, though, that was announced wasn't actually a real one. John Jones teased going up to heavyweight to take on former UFC heavyweight champion Stipe Miocic. And people got excited, me included.
Yeah. Because
the talk about John going to heavyweight, we've been going through this for years. I mean, here's the reason. He was a champion at light heavyweight in his mid-20s. He's 6'4". So he has the size and frame of a heavyweight already.
And he's into bodybuilding. So
yes. I think we all know it's inevitable.
And him and Stipe in particular for that matchup, they walk around probably roughly the same size.
Probably the same size. So it's not going to be as if somebody thinks it's a big deal, it's not going to be as big a deal as you think it is for John.
No, because Stipe is not like Ngannou where he comes down from, 2.
Or Derek Lewis.
Yeah, Derek Lewis come down from 280.
That's or Brock. Because Brock comes down from like 275, 280 if he competes.
No, Stipe and John are roughly the same size if you just catch them on a Wednesday.
Yeah, it's
a little bigger.
Yes, Stipe get to eat a little bit more in training camp. So, but that fight's not happening. Right. Because John teased that in the morning, and then I swear to you, 3 to 4 hours later, the UFC officially announced that the date that John was talking about, he's fighting Thiago Santos. So this is actually International Fight Week in Las Vegas. It's the biggest weekend of the year for MMA, and Thiago deserves it. John has pretty much cleaned out the division at this point, man. I mean, John has beaten Daniel Cormier twice, even though the second one was taken back because of the drug test.
Well, and let's be realistic. John could go on, 12-day fast and fight at 185, and he'll be the best at 185, right? Like John is the best fighter alive according to all information. So he has cleaned out every division. We just want to see him do interesting stuff, because at light heavyweight there doesn't seem to be anyone that can compete with him legitimately.
Yeah, I mean, the only guy I still have a question about, and I haven't seen enough of him yet to really say, oh, well, I have a legitimate question, is Johnny Walker.
I don't think Johnny Walker is. I don't think so. I think Johnny.
I just haven't seen enough yet.
Yeah,
I think it's very much an incomplete.
Well, let's go by what Dana says. People ask about Johnny Walker versus John Jones because it makes sense. Walker's exciting. He's doing great things. He's young, blah, blah, blah. And Dana basically said, let's not ruin this kid.
No,
let's give him the
same thing. Johnny said the same thing. They asked Johnny at this last card, because he jumped on the card with John, and they said, are you ready now? He said, no, not now. He said, I need more fights. He said, but I told him I'm coming for him. He said, but I know I need more fights. Yeah. So he's realistic. He knows, but from a skill set and a size standpoint and an athleticism standpoint, the base is there for it to at least be interesting.
Oh, for sure. In 2 years, he needs 2
years.
I
would say that's about right.
Yeah, 2 years in octagon experience, in cage experience. Because honestly, I think he needs to fight a few people with a few different styles. Because John is. I mean, obviously we said so already. He's a monster. Yes. John is good at everything.
Yes.
Like John basically has no weaknesses.
He does.
So Walker needs to see other phases of the game before he gets in with John. But I'm with you. John versus Steve Hayward would be amazing. John versus Santos, it is what it is. If John fights anybody in his division, MMA, anything can happen, but chances are it's going to be another John Jones fight. It'll be fun because it's like watching Jordan, beat up on the Cavaliers, but you never thought Jordan was going to lose. You still watch it because it's Jordan, right?
Right.
That's what John is right now. John's Jordan. I'm going to watch it because it's John.
Yeah.
If you lose, I'm damn surprised. I don't expect surprises though.
But right, you like you said, it's MMA and anything can happen. Yeah. And Thiago is definitely an anything can happen kind of guy, because he is one of the most deadly strikers I have seen. I'm talking about Thiago Santos is one of those strikers that when he hits somebody, it scares you, especially if it's a kick, because he generates so much torque and explosiveness. But I think he's too small because he came up from middleweight. I think he's too small, and I have seen him subdued and controlled by wrestlers and submission practitioners that I don't consider on John's level. So, and that happened at middleweight. So I that's why I hesitate to say, but like you said, this is MMA and anything can happen. And this dude definitely has the power.
Because John is so comfortably a light heavyweight, I honestly don't like anybody in the history of the UFC moving up to fight John.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody. Well, I can't think of anybody in the history of the UFC that I would favor in a fight against a mentally fit and physically fit John Jones.
Yeah, you gotta prove that.
Nobody. Like, so,
but even if you take a guy like, say, a GSP, who GSP's world class, right? Pound for pound, you can have the discussion.
He's top 3 or 4.
Right. But GSP's too short.
Yeah, but GSP, you talking about jumping a whole bunch, because GSP's his best weight is welterweight. That's 170. Yeah, no. It's not gonna work out. It's not gonna work out. So that it's interesting because it's one of the greatest. Also announced for the same card, it's a co-main event. Holly Holm is coming back. She just signed a new multi-fight deal with the UFC, and she is fighting Amanda Nunes for the UFC Women's Bantamweight title. Now, this is interesting, right? Because these are the 2 Rousey killers, right? These are the 2 women that knocked out Rousey. And the thing about this is they have not fought each other. So if you look at all of the women in the bantamweight division, most of the top fighters have all met each other at some point, right? But it's very strange that none of them, that Nunez and Rousey have, I mean, Nunez and Holm have never fought. So this is an interesting fight. I am a little worried about Holly because Holly's getting up there in age. I think Holly's 36 now, maybe.
And she's not having a great run in her last like 7 fights or so. And the thing about Amanda is Amanda has appeared to reach her final form.
Right?
She's
Super Saiyan now.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Saiyan.
I saw her fucking yellow hair when she was beating up on Cyborg. So, you know, so she power over 9,000 right now. And I think she gonna blast Holly Holm's face into retirement, to be honest with you. I think she signed that deal, and this could be her exit fight if this goes the wrong way. Because she is getting up there. And if you lose bad to a Nunez, even though, you know, Holly's beaten some quality opponents over the years, her record against quality opponents in the last couple of years since Rousey, not phenomenal. And I think, as we've discussed on the show, the division is moving past these older fighters, the women's division in particular, because the women are improving, right? Their division is younger, and they've only fought at this level for a shorter time than the men have. The men have been fighting at the UFC level since the 90s. The women have just been getting this showcase really since Rousey is when it's blown up to the point. Main card, you expect to see a woman on the main card on a regular basis. And so the training gets better, their camps get better. And so you have these youngsters really coming in with a skill set. And I think Holly Holm, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this was her last match, if she just got wrecked and she was just like, you know what? Never mind this.
Nah, I don't, that won't happen. Even if it should, that won't happen.
Okay. I like that you threw that in though.
No, because
even if you would advise her to do that.
Right. Because Holly, no, dude, Holly's an animal. Like Holly's,
I mean, that's
animal.
great, but she's gonna be 38.
She's gonna be 38 in October. She's gonna be 39.
If she loses this fight, she's gonna be 38 by the time her next fight happens.
No. I mean, she's gonna be 38 by the time the next fight happens anyway, because she'll be 38 in October.
Right,
But Holly is an animal, dude, and she just signed I think a 5 or 7 fight deal, and this is the first fight on that deal. She's not about to retire no matter what, unless she gets beat to a point where her injuries will not allow her to return, which I don't think that's going to happen, because here's the thing. Holly is still an exceptional striker.
Sure.
I mean, she's still one of the best strikers. Here's the problem. She does not have the power to stand and strike with Nunez for an extended period. Holly is a chop type of a striker. Nunez is a click, click, boom kind of a striker. And when all you need is 3 clicks and the other person needs 15 clicks, you got to be so much better than them on the feet, you know, and then, or you have to have an advantage on the ground. She doesn't have that either. Well, Nunez is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. So, you know.
Got a question. And I brought this up with Woodley. What is the oldest female fighter you've seen on top?
The oldest female fighter I've seen on top is probably Cyborg.
Okay. And she just got blasted.
By Amanda Nunez.
Who said, I'm 100% going to blast her. I told y'all how it was going to happen. Here's how it happened. And Amanda Nunez is in her athletic prime.
Yeah, because Amanda's only 30.
One of the things we've discussed is now that women are in the peak of their fighting history, this is the best in recorded history that women have competed in martial arts, in my opinion. There's certain pieces of data we're still getting. Part of the reason men decline is because their testosterone levels start declining as they approach 40, right? And so that extra pop, you have to be so great. Like you take guys like LeBron, Anderson Silva. You're so athletic when you're young that you come back to the pack and you can still win based on skill.
Exactly. Yeah.
We haven't seen that as women get older. And the thing about Holmes and Nunez is she might find out for us. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there's always somebody special, and you don't know who they are until they show you who they are. And so I don't know what Holly's limitations are in that sense. I'm speaking more stylistically. Stylistically, it's not a good fight for Holly. It's not. And it wouldn't be a good it wouldn't be a good fight for Holly if she was 27, let alone 37, because
correct, and which is my point, right? Like, we ain't saying that if Holly was 25, she'd win this fight.
Right.
So my thing is, Nunes seems like the next evolution of female fighter, basically.
Yeah.
And Holly Holm is not only a bit more retro in her overall skill set, which is a good skill set, it's a great skill set, but she's also past her prime. Now, there's a chance it could happen less with women. You look at the WNBA, I don't know though, so we gotta find out as time goes on how the great female athlete ages.
It's also, if there's anybody who is capable of performing, I mean, because if you look at somebody like Martina Navratilova, she competed at a very high level late into her 30s.
Yeah, but it wasn't a contact sport.
Yeah, but I mean,
it changes when you're getting punched in the face. You got.
I can buy some of that, but I do still think that there is something to be said for an elite conditioned athlete in their mid to late 30s, especially today. Now that
I think she might be able to beat Nunes running a 5K. Well, she got her boy getting punched in the face.
She's definitely gonna beat Nunes running a 5K because Amanda like to have her a sandwich or two. Definitely, she wants that.
We should move on to that.
She definitely wants that, but she beat her there. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. Nunes is gonna win. But
he always defended her. No, yeah, and I'm with you. She shouldn't. I would like to see her, because of her skill set, I'd like to see her have some great fights and be a threshold guardian for some of these younger fighters, be a great striker that they have to get past. But I think this is a tough fight for her to take in her prime Nunes, and the fact that Holly's a striker. She could surprise us, kick her in the head, but...
Why did you just make that sound so alley? She might surprise us, just kick her in the head. Bow! You never know. You got to watch it when you walk down the street. Somebody might run out, kick you in the head. Bow! That's why I don't go to that grocery store, because somebody might come out of aisle 5, kick you in the head.
Now, so tell me this will happen. Damn you, books. What we got on
Cejudo? Kicked in the head. All right, so Cejudo Moraes, like I had a concept, and I mentioned this to you last week, I believe. So TJ Dillashaw failed his, he had adverse findings in his drug test for the last fight, and I thought the best way for them to feel this, and I knew they weren't going to do it, but I thought the best way for them to feel his title would have been a tournament. I knew they weren't going to do that. I was just saying that just to make myself feel good. So the fight that they've come up with is Henry Cejudo, who is the UFC men's flyweight champion, who just beat TJ Dillashaw.
Yes.
And he's taking on Marlon Moraes, who is the #1 contender. So Aljamain Sterling, as Sean Singletary is pointing out, was saying that, maybe Aljamain Sterling should have been the guy taking on Moraes. You can go a couple ways with that. I do want to go back to something somebody said in the chat. They were talking about Vitor Belfort against John Jones. John already beat Vitor Belfort. So, like literally John has beat everybody, dog. So, I mean, they pointed him out as somebody who John might have would John have a problem with this person if he fought him? John beat Vitor when Vitor was on TRT, the testosterone replacement therapy. So, yeah, he beat the best Vitor you're going to find. But I think he was in his prime because he was on that TRT. So, because they allowed him to use it. So, but yeah, as far as Cejudo Moraes, I can understand the argument, right? The argument is that Cejudo just beat the champion. So even though he's done nothing in this division, you just beat the champion. Now, the counter argument is you didn't beat him at bantamweight. So what takes precedence? Beating the man or beating the man in his weight class.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. That's the thing. So that's what Aljamain Sterling's argument is. He's like, hey, dude, you have never even fought here. But here's the thing. Here's the problem with making Maurice Aljamain Sterling. Marlon Moraes already knocked Aljamain Sterling out.
Correct.
So now we're talking about running it back, a fight that wasn't that happened maybe a year and a half ago. You know, the UFC has always been a little slow to run something back like that, especially when it was a definitive victory like that. I mean, it was a nasty, scary knockout type of thing.
How much does the politics of the 125, 135 thing play into all of this?
Meaning?
Well, you were talking about, you know, him beating Dillashaw, you know, not in his division and coming in and stuff like that. It seems like they're trying to compress the 125, 135 people all into the, you know what I'm saying? Like, it seems like the whole thing's a little messy. So those divisions aren't as hard of lines as the divisions as you go up. When you look at welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, heavyweight, those are like harder lines than at the lower weights, according to like the politics of what's going on.
Well, I think one of the reasons is literally the gap between the weights. So the gap between the weights at flyweight and bantamweight is only 10 pounds.
Right.
And the gap between bantamweight and featherweight is 10 pounds. And the gap between featherweight and lightweight is only 10 pounds. But then when you go from lightweight to welterweight, the gap is 15 pounds.
Right.
So then it becomes obviously much different. And then it's the same gap from welterweight to middleweight. And then there's an even bigger gap from middleweight to light heavyweight because it's 20 pounds. So, and that's why a lot of people are saying there should be a weight class in between those 15s or whatever, because people have been campaigning for a 165 division for a long time, right?
Yeah.
You know, something ultimately has got to be done with weight cutting. It's the single most dangerous thing about the sport. People think the violence, the fighting is actually most dangerous. No, it's the weight cutting. The weight cut there. That's the thing. If you ever watch a video of the people doing dehydrations to make
it's weight. Insane. It's insane what they do.
It's terrible.
You talk about people losing 10 pounds in a week. I lost 40 pounds in 4 months. And I tell people all the time when they ask me about nutrition stuff, don't get into losing weight super fast. That's something you only feel when you feel bad about the weight you're carrying. But the reality of it is your body is not meant to change that quickly.
Right.
There's processes that go on. Your body wants to be in one place. You have to gradually adapt. We're creatures that adapt. That shock to your system's not good for you. And these fighters do this on a regular basis, losing sometimes I've heard things like 10 pounds in 2-3 days. Like,
yeah, oh, absolutely,
crazy,
absolutely.
Y'all really should look at that and look how crazy it is. I totally agree. That's like
if you look up Darren Till weight cut, Joanna Jacek weight cut, Chris Cyborg weight cut. You look at that stuff. I'm telling you, it's tough. It's actually kind of tough to watch because the czar is crazy. It's actually kind of.
I can't even help the people, man.
Right. He don't want you to do nothing. He don't want you to do nothing.
He just missed me. That's all I say.
That's all it is. That's all it is. But yeah, it's something, man. It really is. It's something. But I think that's the biggest thing. But yeah, I don't know if there's a strong rumor that the UFC is looking to abolish the men's flyweight division. And I'm going to tell you right now, if Cejudo moves up and wins this title, so maybe this is what you mean by the politics. If Cejudo moves up and wins this title, that flyweight thing is probably going to die.
That's what I'm talking about.
The channel, not the channel, the entire division.
Yeah,
because there won't be a name there to carry it.
Right, and that's my thing about you saying Maurice is saying he hasn't done anything in this division, and I'm saying if the division he's coming from is on life support, that is music to Dana's ears. You know what I'm saying? Like he's like, great. You know? So
yeah, I mean it's tough, but I don't know. Cejudo Maurice is a decent fight.
Aljamain is saying that.
Yeah, Moraes and Pedro Munoz, as Sean Singletary was saying, is also a really good fight that makes sense. Munoz just had a banger against Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt has to have the lowest fight IQ of any human being ever, whoever has ever existed. I mean, I have no idea what that guy is thinking when he fights. Like, okay, bro. Like, and then don't question him about it because he gets upset. So
no, because if you got to look at his coaching plan. Because their plan was specifically, we're going to start out with some leg kicks. We're going to create some spacing. Then you're going to yell "Rarg" and swing on him as hard as you can until one of y'all drop.
You're going to yell "Cody smash."
Yes, idiot.
It's terrible, dude. And the frustrating part about that part of him is that he's really a talented fighter. He's very quick. He has heavy hands.
Oh, super talented, yeah.
Yeah, but he's insane. And he can't control his emotions. And the bad thing about it is that all his opponents know it too. You know, so on social media, he was kind of getting a hard time for the way he fought. And he told him, he's telling fans, hey, it's either kill or be killed. Okay, bro, but you're not doing any killing lately. You know?
Yeah, and I think part of it is being in a talented division. You get some breaks, you get some bad breaks going your way, you get caught because everybody's so good. And that is part of it. I can understand why he wants to stick to that, but I agree with you. It's stupidity. Where
yeah, I mean, because
I think he's talented enough that if he was a little smarter, kind of like Wonder Boy getting knocked out recently, if you were a little smarter, you wouldn't have got knocked out.
Well, you know, I think Wonder Boy got lulled into a false sense of security because he was fighting a smaller man. Like
there was 5 seconds left. That match where he got Superman punch. He literally almost beat the buzzer by not hitting the ground in time.
No, I mean, it was the second round, though.
But you know, what I'm saying is 5 seconds in, he, went in, dropped his hands, and backed off with 5 seconds left. That just wasn't a smart thing to do at the end of the round.
No, he hit him with a side kick.
Yeah.
That pushed him back against the cage. And honestly, I don't think anybody saw Pettis bouncing off the cage and jumping in the air with a hook. I've been watching MMA for 30 years.
Superman hook. No, what I'm saying
is, I've never seen that.
At the end of the match, you should be ready for the wild, let me knock you out before this match is over thing.
But I really think he thought that he was not in striking distance anymore. Because I had just hit him with a side
kick. He should have known. He should have made sure. I think Wonder Boy is super talented. I think he's a great martial artist. I think that was stupid. I think that was a dumb.
I think he definitely made a big error, but I wouldn't put him in the same category.
No.
Cody's in a category of his own.
Cody's a black belt in stupid fighting.
Yeah.
Wonder Boy had a moment.
He got
a long enough moment to get knocked the hell out.
He got a Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame stupid fighter badge.
Right. Maybe Wonder Boy only got gold and silver stupid fighter. What else we got?
All right. So then the other fight that, and this is kind of one of the things I talked about in the title of the video.
We got NBA after 2 more fights, guys.
We do. Well, actually, really, the last one's not even a fight.
Yeah, last one's not a fight. We gonna
so Tyron Woodley is getting Robbie Lawler in a rematch. So if anybody remembers, he knocked Robbie Lawler out to win his title. Woodley wanted McGregor. He called him out, asked for him. But McGregor can't stop doing all kinds of stuff. He retired. I didn't even put that in the description to discuss because I think everybody knows it's a negotiation ploy. But now he's got these problems. So who knows where those are going to go. But my question is do you think that Tyron Woodley got the shaft a little bit? I thought that at first, but I did some research and I kind of not sure if that really is the case. But do you think that Tyron Woodley should be getting a better opponent than Lawler? Because if you think about it, Woodley was a long-time champion. He lost his title, but he's getting a guy in Robbie Lawler who, one, he's already beaten, and two, is ranked number 10 in the division.
Even though that's his ranking, to give my straight up answer on this, I think this could be the best thing for Woodley. Because I don't think Usman's a good fight for Woodley.
Right. I think it's a tough fight for him all day long.
Right. So, and he said he wants the rematch. I don't think he really wants the rematch because he knows it's not a good fight for him. And him fighting Lawler keeps Lawler away from Askren. So Askren gets to fight somebody else. And
yeah, Askren's probably going to fight Masvidal if Jorge will take the fight. So right now they're saying that, well, Askren is saying he's not taking the fight.
Woodley's super close with Askren.
Yes.
And Askren doesn't want to fight Lawler. So he's actually doing Askren a favor by fighting Lawler. But even though Lawler is technically ranked number 10, he didn't lose the fight in the eyes of many, many people. Pretty much everyone.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Many people.
Let's not say everyone, but let's say it's a very, very controversial loss because of the fact that, me and you on this show, we think he lost the fight, but he doesn't think he lost the fight. A lot of people don't think he lost the fight. So Robbie Lawler still looks like a better opponent than if he actually did get put to sleep. And I think Woodley, if he beats Lawler again, is in position to have whatever he would have had of anything outside of a championship fight, a rematch with Usman. Like, I think he'll get whatever he wants if he beats Lawler. So I don't think it's a bad fight for him.
And here's the other thing. Here's the thing that I was thinking before I even, because I'm usually I'm usually all prepared to go to war for Woodley, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think he doesn't get the respect he deserves. I think he gets mistreated, a lot of things, right? But when you look down the list of ranked fighters, everybody already has a fight. Mm-hmm, okay, because Kobe has already been promised the title fight with Usman as soon as he's ready.
Right.
Dos Anjos already has a fight. Now Masvidal doesn't have a fight, but they're working that out with Ben Askren. So that means those two are fighting. Darren Till just got knocked out. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. Stevie Wonderboy Thompson just got knocked out, and Woodley has already fought him.
And nobody want to see that again.
Twice. And Woodley already just knocked out Till. Okay. Now Pettis just fought. So perhaps Woodley Pettis would work. The only other person that Lawler could have fought outside of Pettis is Santiago Ponzinibbio. Now Ponzinibbio is a dangerous guy. He's a dangerous striker. Doesn't get a lot of credit. A lot of people don't know him, but he's a really good fighter. He's ranked number 9 overall. So that's the thing. And then of course you got a couple people who are teammates and that sort of thing. So like, because definitely Woodley and Askren are not fighting each other. You could forget that. That's not going to happen.
Off the table.
So because of the dynamics of because like Anthony Pettis already said, he's not fighting Woodley. He's not fighting Askren because these are all Rufus Sports guys. And he probably isn't fighting Masvidal because it's another like some other person that he's cool with. So that's probably not going to happen. So it really, when you start putting in the team dynamic along with fighter schedules, then you're like, dang, he probably had to fight him. Leon Edwards could have happened, but Leon Edwards is supposedly, I forget what the deal is, but he does have that cut on his face and probably would be healed definitely would probably be healed in time for the fight. But he didn't have a lot of options. No,
I'm with you. Honestly, I really do. I'm with you. I think it was his only fight, particularly because Askren really, really doesn't want to fight Lawler again. Woodley can't fight Askren. So with you guys having y'all preferences, this is what's left. Yeah. You can either have your preferences or you fight who I say. You know what I'm saying? And that's where it's at. And honestly, I don't think it's a bad fight for him. Robbie Lawler is an exciting opponent in the eyes of many fans and many fighters and many commentators. His loss was called early, not ours, but many others. And so he's still a good opponent. He's not looked at as a guy coming off a loss the way most guys, the way Wonderboy is, right? Wonderboy, you get knocked the hell out. Yeah. So you go down. This is a controversial loss. So Woodley is in a great position if he beats him.
Yeah, I would agree.
Great win for him, great fight for him. Shut up and just knock out Robbie Lawler.
Knock him out again, man. Stop crying. What you got to do, you got to knock him out again, bro.
Yeah.
So
and Robbie Lawler deserves a good fight too.
Yeah, Robbie Lawler. I love Robbie Lawler. Wasn't always a fan. I always respected him. Wasn't always a fan, but now I'm a fan as well. And just basically because of the way he handled himself with Askren, I thought that was super professional and just straight warrior man stuff. And I dig that. So, but yeah. So this last thing is actually not actually a fight. It's hilarious that Chris Cyborg is still trolling Ronda Rousey. Like, so Ronda Rousey, gets kind of picked at a little bit in the WWE scene because she's really bad on the mic. She's dreadful. And even her peers are kind of taking shots at her and stuff like that. So Becky Lynch needles her all the time on Twitter. And so Cyborg jumps in and posts this picture. I don't know if I can share it. You guys got to tell me if you guys can see this, but I don't know. You guys can see it. Oh my God. So this is what Cyborg posted. She's like, be careful. She's talking to Becky Lynch. She says, be careful. She might refuse to go to work and retire, because Cyborg wanted Ronda Rousey. She wanted to fight her, but she wanted Rousey to come up to 145 because Cyborg can't make 135 healthy. And so she posted this picture. Cyborg's also trying to get into the WWE.
That is why I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to get your perspective on her going to the WWE, because this was a WWE conversation.
Absolutely.
Like there was no MMA in that whatsoever.
No, and Cyborg inserted herself smartly.
Correct.
Inserted herself into this conversation because she wants to be a part of the dynamic. Here's the thing. Ronda legitimately hates Cyborg. Like, I've interviewed Ronda and we were talking absolutely normal until we started talking about Cyborg, and she turned into a raving lunatic immediately upon mention of her name. She does not like this woman, right? So now in the history of professional wrestling, there's been plenty of times where you've seen people work with people that they don't like. So it's not like it can't happen. But yeah, that's gonna be a tense match. Yeah, because she don't like her. So I don't know. I mean, it would do well. But the other thing of it is that Cyborg hasn't been trained at all in professional wrestling, and whether or not people realize it or not, that definitely matters.
Well, but I would say if you look at the history of wrestling, she doesn't. If Cyborg would have retired, right, and go into the WWE, she doesn't even have to do that to participate in the WWE for a while, because she can go in, do a spot, sabotage a match, hit her with a chair, get out of there, let a cycle of WrestleMania pass while she's getting her training, and she's under contract hyping up this long-term story. So she barely speaks English, so I mean that's...
she does speak English. She has a strong accent, and her promos might be a little tough, but I mean, hey, if
her accent is in character too.
And if Asuka,
she fits into the Nikolai Volkov archetype of the...
but if Asuka can even though Asuka's been mistreated, I would say, even I'm not an Asuka fan. I'm not an Asuka fan at all. She drives me crazy. Her mic work is terrible, and all them horrible facial expressions they have her making, which is really just a caricature and stereotype of Asian culture. And the WWE hasn't broken out of that kind of stuff yet. But she's all that yelling and grunting and all this. I'm like, what are y'all doing? So it's really bad. And but if Asuka can make it over and reach a certain level, I don't think that Cyborg's communication is going to be an issue at all. And WWE is moving away from having the the stereotypical look to all of their female or women performers. So
which goes back to history, because there was always a variety in history.
Well, what I mean is, like, before, if you were going to be a woman star in the WWE, you would have to be somebody who would be considered traditionally attractive or traditionally beautiful.
Then they always had, like, you sometimes had the bigger WWE lady fighters, and you had like China and stuff like that.
But China still had an appeal on that level, because there are a lot of guys, and WWE does everything they do geared towards men, right? For the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of guys who find like the bodybuilder type attractive. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a whole thing about that. You know, there's a whole like a little fantasy, male fantasy that not everybody buys into it, but there's a whole male fantasy that goes with the bodybuilder type female. So I think she fit into that. And then she was just such an anomaly. You know what I mean? That you almost couldn't ignore that, you know.
Yeah.
But the first time that exactly 1989 says there's a fetish that goes with that. There absolutely is.
I would say for me with that, because I don't want to get too into taboo topics here, but I think we on the edge right now.
Right, we're on the edge.
Hashtag don't
I never thought the word fetish would be uttered on an At Me Bro episode, but it has been done.
Here we are. Here we are, y'all. Current here. So I think Cyborg fits into the overall tapestry.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's a different thing if you're talking about an influx of athletes who, regardless of their looks, are dominating the UFC. I think it's a totally different thing than when you say, well, we're bringing in the muscle archetype, right? We're bringing in the Kane archetype through, you know, Cyborg. I think that fits in to juxtapose against the typical look of the rest of the WWE fighters. I think it actually it almost makes it better. It's one of those things where if everybody's Shawn Michaels, if everybody has long blonde hair and, you know, no shirt on, then it's not dynamic. But once you bring in George the Animal Steel and, you know, Kane and you know, Prince Albert,
right,
funky looking characters and Gold Dust, now you have a, you know, and I think honestly the women's division needs to continue to evolve.
It is.
And that makes it more interesting. Cyborg could bring that to the table.
Oh, I think she would be great if she gets a year or so of training. Give her a year or so of training, give her a smart move set that's built on some striking and some power moves. And you know, and I think she could be crazy good. Like in terms of just overall, she needs a manager for sure. You know, and just let her go, and I think she could be awesome. I mean, Ronda needed a manager actually, but they didn't give her one. So yeah, it's just difficult. Right? Okay, she ain't even a good actress, bro. So you know, it's oh my god, it's terrible. So and it has nothing to do with her being a woman or anything. It's about you are not from this industry, and a big part of this industry is about communicating and talking and and being able to project this character.
We discussed this months ago. I said I think she's a natural heel.
Yes, and that's why she has switched.
Yes, and they need her to be exactly herself.
And that's what she's doing.
Right, and now I think, you know, that element is becoming more interesting with her, and it makes her opponents more interesting. She is not Hulk Hogan. She's not, you know, Shawn Michaels. She, you know, she doesn't have that. She's not The Rock. Obviously,
she ain't even the Junkyard Dog, bro.
Right. She's not that. But I think she can be if she plays totally realistic. She can move into more Bret Hart territory.
I want to see a big, heavy African American lady come out dressed as the Junkyard Dog with Thump on the side of her tights.
On that note, we got to move on to the NBA. You know I work for Disney, right? I can't be talking about big black ladies and fetishes on the show.
What's wrong with if big black ladies need love too, Nelson? You can't leave them all out of the whole thing.
I just said I can't talk about it.
You can't talk about a big black lady in a tight say Thump on it?
I'll check with the mouth.
Woo! I kill me. I crack me up. I crack me up. All right. So, all right.
What we got? We got a lot of
He said, Lolo, beware.
Lolo, beware. That is fantastic. That might be my WWE creative character.
Lolo beware. Oh, I got you guys. If you're waiting, I like Lolo beware better. D Johnson. I like Lolo. Lolo's better. I know Coco is the real.
No. You was right. That's an accidental genius. Right?
That was accidental genius. That's where it is.
Lolo beware.
Lolo is the best. So I am going to create my MLB The Show character, Slim Pepper Jack.
Oh,
That I'm gonna try to get to it tonight. So we'll see what happens with that. I put the link to the baseball channel in the description. Make sure y'all do it. Also, I haven't seen any questions yet for Ask Us Bro.
that's because,
Please
yeah.
throw us some questions in there that we can hit for Ask Us Bro, because we'll be jumping on that after we talk about the NBA playoff bracket, which is what we're going to talk about right now. So if you had, like, if the playoffs started today, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you had to pick the first round series that you think would be, or is shaping up to be, the most exciting, which one would you say that is?
Well, since about half the teams in the playoffs are a game or less apart from each other, I have to first pull up the standings and see what just switched around, because Houston just blasted Denver. So you said which would be the most exciting?
Yes.
I
already know my answer.
The number one most exciting right now. God, honestly, I don't. Right now, I don't love the first round matchups, to be honest with you.
There's one I love. There's one I love.
The one that I would personally probably be most excited in, and this is a little bit hometown, is Brooklyn versus Toronto. But yeah, every other matchup is either straightforward or I'm just not interested. You know what I'm saying?
You know, here the one I love is the Nuggets Thunder.
See, that's one I'm not interested, because that's the Thunder's like worst matchup in all of the Western Conference.
It's one of the few teams that can match them athletically across on the wings. In most of the areas, I think they can. And Jokic takes Steven Adams away from the basket.
Yeah, I think it's just a bad matchup for the Thunder. I think that's a bad matchup.
But but there's a Westbrook factor.
I don't
and
think
there's a Paul George factor.
Paul George is playing terribly since the All-Star break.
Yeah, well, not last night. He had a good game last night.
Did you watch the game?
No, I just saw the stat line.
Yeah, see, no, I watched the game. He wasn't that good last night. Okay. They got a big lead where everybody playing pretty well, and then Westbrook sat down, and then Paul George proceeded to play like horribly. He hit like one shot and then was bad, and they were catching up, and then they put Westbrook back in. He got like 2 clutch alley-oops, a great pass. Then Paul George hit a really great shot, got an and one, and it came back together. He was decent last night. He was not great. He was not nearly his MVP self last night. Hopefully that shoulder injury is clearing up. But the problem with Denver versus the Thunder is Denver just shoots really well, and the Thunder don't shoot really well. And the Thunder are really great at defending a star. But Denver they just bring shooters from everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like that matchup for Oklahoma City if that was to happen. I think Oklahoma City would probably lose in 5 against them. Just on a matchup basis, I think it's their worst matchup.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Playoffs, this is a different situation. And the Nuggets don't have near the playoff experience of
that's true.
The Thunder. And so I'm, I don't know. I think that, because I think the Thunder are a team that could really, and like you said, a lot of this is matchup based, but I think the Thunder are a team that could actually give the Warriors a decent series.
See, I think they match up well against the Warriors. They match up well against the Rockets. They match up well against Portland. They match up well against San Antonio. That's the funny thing, is I think they match up really well with almost every Western Conference team, better than they match up with Denver. That's actually their worst matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, we have to see what it's actually like in the postseason.
Now that's a valid point. I think that's a totally valid point. I would say the number one thing is Paul George needs to get healthy. Whoever they play is who they play, but Paul George needs to get healthy.
He's like, I didn't see the last game, but if you look at his production across the board, I would say for the last, I don't know, 5 to 7 games, it's been pretty decent. He's had a couple bad shooting nights, but the scoring, the rebounding is there.
But that's not good enough. He needs to be what he was early in the year, because they don't have shooting. This is what I've been saying about the Thunder for years. People think I'm just defending Westbrook. What I've been saying about the Thunder for years is they have not put enough shooting on that team. And the three-point era has only become more prominent and dominant since Kevin Durant was on the team. Shooting is even more important now than it was back then. Props to Oklahoma City for being probably the most athletic team I've ever seen, position by position. I don't know if I've ever seen a team that thoroughly athletic. When you talk about having elite athletes at every position and coming off the bench, it's crazy. But they need better shooting. They need more shooting. And I can't imagine how that front office has not gotten at least 2 knockdown shooters to come in for that team.
And when they have gotten shooters, they've gotten guys who were so deficient in other areas.
Right. He's got to be able to shoot and chew bubblegum at the same time. Right. Anthony Morrow ain't going to cut it.
Exactly. And he was absolutely one of the people that I was talking about when I said that. Mm-hmm. And I believe that Alex Abrinas got dismissed from the squad earlier this season. He had some issue that popped up. They released him for personal issues, so I don't know what that was.
We have no idea what that was.
That was in February.
Yeah, he done hit a pregnant lady and ran away from the scene.
Right. So I don't know what it was, but he was shooting 37% from 3.
He was a serious bright spot for them.
Right.
And they're also still without their defensive specialist from last year. They didn't get Robertson back. And they didn't replace him. It wasn't like they traded him. They're just missing that depth. And even though Robertson, I don't love him in the starting lineup because he can't shoot, having that kind of defense coming off the bench is incredible. And they don't have it, which is the same, they faced that same issue as last year. Being able to throw him on somebody and just give them a horrible night, especially with switching with Paul George, is like, you don't want to see that. So, I think if Paul George gets healthy, then maybe it's more exciting. But even when they were at their best, Denver just handed it to them.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, like I have seen plenty. I've seen plenty of years.
Oh, for sure.
Where we look like the team was, a certain, like a matchup was a certain thing in the regular season. Mm-hmm. Postseason rolled around, and it was an entirely different situation. And usually, when I've seen that major flip flop like that, it's been in favor of the more experienced team.
And like I said, I actually agree with you with that. What I would say is also with the standings, I mean, Denver could go to 1, Golden State could go to 2, OKC could move up to 6. If we get OKC versus Portland, that series is prime time, watch every game. That's going to be crazy.
Yeah. Now, 1989 is trying to start some stuff in this chat with this last question. It's a very good one. But he is absolutely trying to start some mess. He said he wants your thoughts on the FPVR. You might not be aware of what that is, but 1989 is one of my longest tenured subscribers. And
is that why he's so trained to start in trouble?
Yes, I think that's why he does it. So the FPVR is a formula that I created to gauge the all-time value of every single player who has ever played at least 3 seasons for every franchise in the NBA, right? It is what I base my all-time rosters on in 2K. Mm-hmm. It is often a point of contention because people think somebody...
It's one of your Mazique fantasies that you done made up?
And I rebuke you right now. So because sometimes people think certain people should have been on there, blah blah blah. Some of people shouldn't be now. And the Czar just said the FPR is that the real Czar?
oh, it's the real Czar. It's authentic. He verified.
The Czar. What's in your cup? I know what is in your pickle jar. What is in your pickle jar? Because he usually on a stream he got a pickle jar with some mystery. With some mystery liquid.
I tell you what, that's an Ask Us Bro question. Hey, we serve the people. Let's describe and review the FPVR.
We are. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do that after the brackets for sure.
Congratulations. You have brought foolishness to Ask Us Bro.
He has done it. You are the man. All right, so let's see.
I just saw what he wrote in the chat. We ain't gonna spoil it. If you're watching this on YouTube later on, this is gonna be addressed in the Ask Us Bro. Why'd I make that sound? It's something I read in chat. That's ridiculous. We're gonna get to that.
Oh my God, y'all are some suckers, boy. I'm trying to tell you. And see, the thing of it is that rating has nothing to do with the FPVR, but we'll talk about that in a second. Anyway, all right. So if the playoffs started today, Bucks Heat, what say you? How many games?
Just because Brogdon is either not there or resting, 5.
I say Bucks in 5.
Yeah, 5. I think one great night from Dwayne Wade. Miami just they're a veteran team. They're coached really well. A team like that's going to get you once. But overall, they can't do anything about Giannis. Nobody can. Nobody can do anything about Giannis. But it's the fact that Giannis creates the shooting opportunities for everybody else. And I think the Bucks are just going to shoot too well. And also, I think Eric Bledsoe is the best point guard in the series, and he's going to just put too much pressure. He's playing really well.
He is playing really well. He's really comfortable right now.
The Bucks are too much. The best team.
Golden State, San Antonio.
This is interesting because the storyline with Golden State and San Antonio is what people have been saying about Golden State all year is, man, they don't look like they're that good. Like, not that good. Obviously, they're number one seed.
They don't look like people thought they were going to look.
Correct. And we actually started talking about this on the Sim Hangout. Wait until we see Boogie. Wait until we see Boogie. Don't just pencil him in as adding 24 and 11 to the current Golden State. Let's see that pick and roll defense.
Yep.
And at the time we didn't count on them having less depth across the board, and we didn't count on Draymond aging in dog years this year.
Yeah.
He got a book bag full of power tools on his back every time he take a 3-pointer now. I don't know why he'd wear that, but it's not a good look, and he's not hitting shots doing that. So the thing about San Antonio also being well coached, having decent talent on the team, they don't have point guards, which means they don't have a chance to win the series. But they can start the long road of Golden State. Instead of them winning 4 games every series, they might wind up going 6-6 and 7 on their way to the finals if they even get there. And that could really impact them negatively, putting them through that murderer's row if that's what happens to them. So I think that series is interesting for how much can San Antonio push it.
So what do you think? How many?
Probably 5, but 6 will be a victory for San Antonio. If they can get them to 6 games, good on them.
I think Warriors in 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if it went 7.
And if that happens, because San Antonio's been playing really well lately.
Yep.
Really, really well lately. I know they might have dropped 1 or 2 recently. Even that was a close one. But they were on a little streak for a while, and they have been finding their stride. Again, they lost their point guards at the beginning of the season, so they're playing with a severe handicap, and they're still doing that Popovich thing. So yeah, I think that's a tough matchup. It could be a tough matchup.
Yes. Now, all right. So the Raptors, the Nets. You said that was one of the ones you were looking forward to.
Yeah, that's interesting because the Raptors, they have some shakeups there. They got rid of Valanciunas and they have Marc Gasol. They haven't had a whole lot of time to incorporate Marc Gasol. They've been playing terribly for a while. Like, they have not been playing good basketball for a while. And with Kawhi leaving and Kyle Lowry apparently hating his owner, not disguising it at any moment throughout the season, when the playoffs hit, that stuff matters. And even though I like Toronto on paper, they have a great team on paper. Kawhi Leonard's phenomenal. I think Kyle Lowry has actually been doing some good things, even though his shooting's been up and down. Their defense is great. Siakam's a much better player than he was last year. The Nets have been playing really well, and they have that knockout punch with the shooting, and because they're such great 3-point shooters, they have a lot of team chemistry. They really play together. Like, if you watch the Nets,
they play for each other. Very unselfish.
Correct. And they do have and they just got Karis LeVert back.
Yep.
So we still have to see what that looks like in the playoffs. They don't have a ton of experience, but Toronto is a reasonably new group, particularly with the additions of Gasol. So I think that series could be pretty exciting. And I think Toronto's going to win it probably in 6, but a hot shooting night could turn that into a 7-game series or an upset.
Yeah, I mean, The one thing that I like about Brooklyn is that Brooklyn has a primary creator on both units, the first and the second unit. So whether you got D'Angelo Russell out there, you got Spencer Dinwiddie, they
Both
have a
really good
primary.
players.
They have a primary creator, and that's one of those things that kind of proofs you against going through long scoring droughts when you have a primary creator on both units. So I definitely like that about them. And the good thing is that neither one of those primary creators are play small forwards. So it's probably not going to be Kawhi's primary primary defensive assignment. So I like the Raptors in 6. All right. So the Nuggets Thunder, I think we talked a little bit about that, but I didn't say what I thought would happen. I have the Thunder to upset the Nuggets in 7.
I would say if it goes to Game 7, I think Game 7 in Denver usually is a good look for Denver. So OKC has to win that in 6 or less.
Okay.
If they're going to win it. They're in flux right now. I got to see Paul George's health to give you an honest prediction. But right now, it looks like the Nuggets in 5 or 7.
Okay, we will see. All right, so then we got the 76ers against the Pistons. Now, this is another one I'm kind of interested in, too. I like the 76ers in 6.
I like 76ers in 5. I even though the Pistons, Wayne Ellington has been a surprisingly great addition for them. And they have been playing better. They've gotten some pretty big wins in the last few weeks, moving up the standings. And that's great for them. Happy for them. They are still 4-6 in their last 10.
Yep.
And even though Blake's jump shot has improved tremendously, that is not the weapon I want to go to war with against Joel Embiid and Jimmy Butler and Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris and JJ Redick and even the rest, some of those bench guys. Bob, it's just not. It's not a good look. So I think the Sixers are too deep. I think they are starting to figure themselves out a little bit. Yeah, I got the Sixers in 5 in that one.
Yeah, if that's even what it is, because
I mean it's moving around a lot.
Because Brooklyn could catch them.
Detroit could miss the playoffs.
And Miami, right? Well,
literally, Detroit might not even be the playoffs.
Yeah, Detroit's they have they only have a game and a half lead on the Magic.
And the Magic are 7-3, and Detroit is 4-6. So
right. So
yeah.
You never know. But yeah, right now that would be the matchup. Then you got the Blazers against the Clippers.
We can't talk about that without talking about Nurkic's injury.
That's what I was going to say. I haven't seen it, and I don't plan on seeing it.
I saw it. Don't watch it. It's horrible.
I'm not gonna.
Let me tell you how I saw it real quick. So I'm watching that game. I look away for a second, and when I look back, if you guys saw my Twitter feed, any of y'all following me, I wrote, "Oh, Nurkic is done." I didn't see him get injured. I saw him on the floor, and his foot was just hanging off his leg, flopping around in his shoe. And it was horrible. And honestly, I intended to never see it. Unfortunately, one of them dumb ESPN shows showed it while the woman was saying they wouldn't show it. They showed it while she was literally saying that. Because her and her video people wasn't coordinated. So I saw it. It's horrible. It's gruesome. It's basically Gordon Hayward all over again. Really tough for them emotionally because he was playing great. He was one of my picks for big surprises of the year because I thought he was just playing that well. I thought he was putting them in position to be more competitive than they looked. And then adding Enes Kanter. Who else did they add? They added somebody else to that team.
I thought those were the only. Oh, I thought they didn't add Nurkic at the mid-season. They added
better. You had a bunch of guys on that team who weren't really a factor last year, playing better. So you got Curry who's shooting really well.
Yes.
Rodney Hood they added this year, and he added a stable because remember they were really struggling at the backup shooting guard.
I talked to Rodney Hood last year with the Cavs, and y'all on Sim Hangout just really dogged me. Y'all act like
slow down.
Y'all did it.
He a good backup, solid. Rodney Hood is the most replaceable NBA player in history.
No.
He is a creative character. Like 75 overall. That's Rodney Hood. But they needed that. They needed that.
The disrespect that people get in this building.
I'm just saying. Rodney Hood don't even need a name. He should have a jersey number with no name on it. He liked them college players in the
I don't know why. I don't know why you were so drastic with.
I'm not drastic. It's an accurate assessment of Rodney Hood's skills. And listen, I'm saying that's valuable. That's valuable to what they needed. They needed that. But let's not make it more than what it is, man. He ain't never gonna make an All-Star game. Stop.
No. I just said
ain't gonna scare nobody either.
He ain't
a third wheel. He ain't a fourth wheel. He's a stabilizing part of the rotation, and they needed that. They have it. Seth Curry contributing positively. Enes Kanter, he gives you a double-double. Now he's going to be starting before it was coming off the bench. So a lot of positivity for them there. I think they would have been scary if Nurkic hadn't gone down, but now that he's gone down, ultimately, you would think they should still beat the Clippers, but the Clippers are playing well, man.
Yeah, I think the Clippers are playing well. I think the Clippers win that series. I really do. I think the Clippers win that series because I think the Clippers defend too well consistently. I'm
sorry. I gotta interrupt you. I don't like to interrupt you because you're absolutely right in what you're saying right here. Somebody in the chat said Rodney Hood would school me though.
Yeah.
Am I an NBA player?
Nope.
Is he a comic book artist?
And he called you Brooks.
Listen, I think illiteracy is a terrible thing. And I'm not trying to get on people on their journey.
Yes.
So I encourage him to continue on his path. How about this? I'll challenge Rodney Hood to a 3-point shooting contest, and me and him could draw Spider-Man after that. See who get closer. Let's do that. Let's do that.
And the Czar started this Sim Hangout with a buzz. He is on the floor with his shirt. He is on the floor with his shirt pulled up over his belly now, drunk as ever.
Meanwhile, I'm gonna have to carry him in the division.
Big Mama is clearly not at home because
where's she gonna come from, kids?
He's sitting there topless. He is sitting there topless with a jar of E&J on his stomach, and he is just with his tablet in his hand, and he just typing crazy stuff. He is out here. He is out here.
No other lights on except the tablet light.
Laughing loud.
Somebody in chat wrote the Clippers are going to do what the Pelicans did and get the ball out of Lillard's hands. I think they're better prepared for that this year with a little more depth overall. But I do think when you have defenders the level that the Clippers have, you got to always be concerned about that.
And here's the other thing that I think people might be missing about what Nurkic was doing. Nurkic was facilitating a lot out of the post, and then they were bringing him up top, and he was creating, and it was allowing Dame to move around without the ball a lot and to get the ball and attack from different points. And now you can't just plug any center into that lineup and have them do the same thing. It's almost similar to I'm about to hear some mess right now. But it's almost similar to what Joakim Noah was doing with the Bulls earlier a few years ago. The Bulls were running offense through Noah a lot.
Yeah.
And you can't just throw another big out there who is going to be able to do that. So it diversified the offense quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. And with Dame's shooting ability, that benefits them very, very much, particularly with Dame and McCollum. They get a lot out of that. So now I'm with you. And the sad thing about that right there is Nurkic was only in the game because Brooklyn had fouled out both of their centers and were playing a small ball lineup.
And he was killing.
He was dominating, right? Like he was dominating them because they had Jared Dudley on him. God bless Jared Dudley's soul.
Now, I know we were talking about us against NBA players. I promise you right now, Jared Dudley can't guard me. I will beat Jared Dudley. I will beat Jared Dudley off the dribble. I will beat him. I know I can. Give me 60 days in a personal trainer. And I will beat him off the dribble. I will beat him off the dribble. Hard right. Clyde Drexler, head down. I'll get him. All right, so let's see who got next. I didn't give my prediction.
Yeah.
I got the Clippers upset. I got the Clippers upsetting. Yep, Clippers up 7-6. All right, so the last first round matchup, we're only gonna do first round. Pacers against the Boston Celtics. That's interesting.
This is very interesting because Boston has been, first of all, the Pacers, I mean, they're not on a great streak right now. They've been playing some tough teams. The Pacers are a good team.
Mhm.
They're a great defensive team. And we have lauded praises on Sabonis this here and talked about him being sixth man. He's an extraordinarily talented person to be bringing off your bench. They added Tyreek Evans this year. He's a great playmaker for them. Miles Turner has turned into a stellar defender.
Yeah, and he's a really rare. How many rim protecting stretch bigs are there?
Yes, and he's got a general amount of skill. I still think that he can be an all-star if he just keeps working and they keep training him up. You know? I think he's a guy. He looked like he was going to be great at some point. He looked like he was showing flashes, and then he went down, and now he's found his stride as more of a role player. But I still think he has that talent to be lower level all-star.
I mean, it's crazy, dude. Like his stat line is insane. He's averaging just under 3 blocks a game, and he's shooting just under 38% from three.
On a team that's so great defensively, that defensive contribution that's not empty numbers.
No.
Indiana is stifling.
It's hard to get an empty 3 blocks. Like I mean, unless you Manute Bowl.
Well, JaVale McGee is a guy I would say could get you a bunch of blocks, but those blocks are the only positive things he did defensively. He didn't. No, and that's not to say that he never does, but he's not a great post player. He's not a super intelligent defender.
Well, I mean,
there's people who are just great jumpers. They have, they get a lot of help blocks, but their man has whoever offense on them. But Miles Turner is the other side of it. He's a guy who, even without his blocks, he'd be a stellar defender. The fact that he's also getting a bunch of shot blocks is a plus. So we're in agreement on that. Who do you got in this series?
I have the Celtics in 7, and I have Kyrie going nuts in Game 7 and saying we ain't losing.
This is an interesting situation because I can't tell what the Boston Celtics are.
And I think when this series is over, you won't be able to tell anymore. But what I think happens is Kyrie's individual brilliance as a scorer, and he's just having a great year. Like, we're gonna get into the FPVR, but if he was to make my Boston Celtics team, which he hasn't been there long enough, this is the season I would base his ratings off of.
Oh, this sounds like a hot mess. We're gonna get into this. This sounds crazy. Okay.
I'm just blown away by the disrespect. I'm blown away by the disrespect.
I think
the disrespect has detonated in my face.
I think Boston you know what I would say? I think Boston in 6. I think they might find themselves in this series against a great defensive, well-coached team. I think a lot of the mess that happens in the regular season could probably go away. And also, I would say Gordon Hayward watch. Gordon Hayward has gotten some of the least sympathetic coverage I've ever seen for a guy coming back from a.
They don't care, man. They don't. I mean, he can treat it like a black man, ain't he? I'm like, they don't care nothing about the little white man that done broke his foot off. They don't care, man. I mean, they like, dude, go on somewhere. It's a bunch of people that done broke their foot. Get out of here, Gordon.
This man, he a good dude. He makes the right plays. He trying hard. He getting into shape. He done worked hard to come back from a gruesome injury. Kept his head up.
Everything. I mean, he could be over there. He could be over there acting like Isaiah Thomas.
Right. He hasn't had. It's not. They act like he hasn't had 30-point games and all this stuff. Like, he's just taking it all on the chin, and he's looked like. And the thing is, here's the reason I brought him up. When he plays well, Boston.
Oh, they are a different team.
Crazy. Right? Like, people were talking about trading him for Anthony Davis. Honestly, if I felt as a Celtics management like Gordon Hayward would be Gordon Hayward, he would be one of the last people I want to trade.
Yeah, because his skill set and his temperament are a perfect match for that team.
Tremendous.
Because he doesn't have to be the look, I got it. He'll let Kyrie do that. He'll let Jason Tatum go off and do their thing, and he'll do whatever he's going to do. But then on a night where they're not there or not hitting or not on their game, I got it, 25.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
And he's one of the best shooters on the team.
Yeah.
He's one of the best cutters on the team.
And he's physically strong, so he's able to defend guys on the post.
Correct.
He
works in every lineup.
Yeah, not a horrible athlete or anything like that. So
good athlete. He's already a decent athlete, and we know he doesn't even fully have his legs back. It takes an entire year to get to your NBA basketball self after basically losing your leg for all that time and sitting down all that time. So if Gordon Hayward, he's been getting better, so I think he's a serious X factor.
Yeah, I got the Celtics winning that one though, but I do think Kyrie goes bananas in game.
Yeah, I think Celtics in 6, and I think they find themselves as a team and look a lot better. I still don't know if that makes them better than the Sixers and if the Raptors have their stuff together or the Bucks, because I think the best player on those teams are all better than Kyrie Irving. I would take Joel Embiid and Kawhi Leonard and Giannis Antetokounmpo over Kyrie, full hesitation, no stop. In all 3 cases, I would easily take those three players, no matter what the question you're asking. So when you don't have the best player and the other team has a better record, and then I don't favor you. Yeah. But I don't put that on Boston. That's just where the rest of the East got better. That's not your fault that the rest of the East got better, and Jason Tatum didn't have a sophomore year that capitalized off of his rookie year the way everybody thought it would. I don't think it's disappointing for Boston to lose to those teams. I don't think they're underachieving. Obviously, they'd be underachieving if they lost to Indiana. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll beat Indiana in 6.
Yeah, I got Boston in 7. Okay. All right, so the last series is the Rockets against the Jazz. For me, I think that the Rockets are really kind of hitting their stride at the right time. Mm-hmm. And I think they look like one of, if not the most dangerous team in the league at this point. I know they're only the 4th seed, but a lot of that has to do with a lot of injuries that they had to fight throughout the early part of the season.
And let's talk about that real quick. It wasn't just injuries. I think they caught Super Bowl loss syndrome. And as a fan of multiple sports, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right? So when you lose in the Super Bowl, a lot of teams have a disastrous year after they lose in the Super Bowl. Teams. Right. Most teams. Almost
Super Bowl loser.
Correct. And I think when they lost to Golden State, for them, that was the championship. And this used to happen in the Eastern Conference. The Knicks and the Bulls was the championship series. And then the Bulls was going to beat whoever's coming out of the West. Right? That was their biggest challenge.
Yeah, that's how it went. That's pretty much how it went.
And that's how it went last year.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it went.
Yeah, that's how
I was there when it happened.
You good?
Yeah, I was just saying.
Okay. Just make sure you're good.
I remember that. Yeah.
So I think the Houston Rockets versus the Warriors, especially in Houston's mind, is the Bulls versus the Knicks right now. And like the Knicks, they believe that they have a chance to beat the Warriors. And when they lost, I think they had a very, very severe hangover to start the year, which is one of the reasons I don't think James Harden deserves MVP, because he was just fat and playing bad in the beginning of the year. Just is what it is. Mm-hmm. He was chubby and playing bad. That's part of the reason they were so bad. But like you said, the NBA season is 82 games. It's not 16 games. The NBA season was 16 games. They'd be Cleveland Browns. You know what I'm saying? But as the NBA game season is 82 games, they had time to get over that and acquire more talent. They got new players on that team that have fixed a lot of the issues that people thought they would have from losing Trevor Ariza. It's a big deal to have Kenneth Faried in that system playing the way he's playing.
Yeah,
it's a big deal to have Austin Rivers as a third playmaker.
I think he was definitely a big deal, and I think James Ennis has finally started to do a little bit of what they wanted him to do on the defensive side of the ball too.
And when you get those pieces, then you have guys like Gerald Green who can X factor in any game and come in and just hit 5 out of 5 threes in a quarter and win you a game you might have supposed to have lost. So I'm with you on Houston and how dangerous they are and how they're hitting their stride. I would definitely say they have a great chance to beat the Jazz, but Utah had also a very, very bad early part of the season, very disappointing first half of the season. Donovan Mitchell, I think if he was playing the way he's played in the second half, he would have made the All-Star game.
Oh, yeah.
And so that could be a tough out. I would have Houston in 6, but upset watch.
Well, I got a shocker for you. I got Houston in 4.
Wow.
I got Houston in 4.
That's disrespectful.
I don't think that we're talking about one of those series where they beat them by 25 and then they beat them by 19 and then they beat them by 7 and then in game 4 they only win by 3. No, I think all of these games are probably 10 points or less, but I think Houston pulls it out each game.
Mm-hmm.
I think Houston pulls it out each game. I think that there's an issue with Gobert being the Gobert he wants and needs to be because of how mobile and how well Capella works off screens, and keeping Gobert in that screen and roll situation, I think is going to be a problem that you have to watch with that team, with this matchup throughout the entire series.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Rockets have multiple guys to throw at Donovan Mitchell, and they can essentially hide James Harden from him. And also, I think that one of the biggest things is having Chris Paul back, truly back is really the thing.
And because of all the time he missed, that's probably good for him in the long run.
I think it is. I think at his age and because of the injuries that he's had throughout his career, I think this is absolutely the best thing. And I do agree with Zard. It's the first thing he said today in chat that I agree with. Giannis is the MVP without a question.
Yeah. We on the show we include defense in our assessment, and Giannis has a really, really, really great case for Defensive Player of the Year, and for a guy averaging 28 points, 12.5 rebounds, and 6 assists, that's insane.
Yes.
And if you watch the games, it's even more insane because the criticism for Giannis is that he doesn't shoot the 3. First of all, let's not act like he's Ben Simmons. He makes threes, and he makes threes in clutch moments. He's not a great three-point shooter by any stretch. But I think it's much more important to give 4 other people wide open threes on a regular basis than it is for you to shoot threes. If you're a small player, you get to the basket, they only need to send one person to help. They send 4 people to help on Giannis when he goes to the basket. Yes. And you got 4 shooters around him, and that's why they have the #1 record.
And sometimes he dunks on all 4 of them.
Sometimes he don't even pass. He just dunk on all 4 people. No, the boy's a monster. James Harden in any other year MVP, but this year Giannis is putting on one of the best performances I've ever seen.
Yes, I would concur.
And his second best player is Chris Middleton, who's not even arguing. I mean, come on.
Yes. So we had actually quite a few Ask Us Bro questions here. I saw it. I saw that demonic reference. I saw it. So here we go. Let's jump into Ask Us Bro. So Sean Singletary says, should Harden be penalized as an MVP candidate for his lesser impact on the defensive side of the floor? I think we really just talked about that. I think that is really the true thing that separates Harden from Giannis, because yes, Giannis is drawing more attention offensively. You could make that argument in terms of drawing more bodies, but I don't think you can make any argument about the fact that how much better of a defender Giannis is.
No, he's like something like defensive win shares, he's second, and defensive something else, he's first. Like it's insane. Like he's an insanely great defender. And the other thing is rebounding is part of defense, right? Yes. First of all, Giannis leads his team in points, rebounds, assists. He's like barely second in steals.
I mean, he sells more cookies than everybody. I mean, everything.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And the thing is, if you watch the games and you watch how Giannis affects his team, and never minding the fact that their team on paper at the beginning of the year, you would have never thought that they had enough talent to be the best team in the league by most people's estimations. He out there running that cheese ball 5 out. It's Giannis. But the thing about it, I wouldn't say James is being penalized. If it was James versus, say, Steph Curry, who's not a stellar defender by any stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was James versus Kevin Durant, who's a good defender, but he's not an elite defender. He's not Kawhi Leonard. He doesn't change the face of your defensive team compared to other people at his position who are also good defenders. Giannis is one of the number one people you want on defense in the entire NBA, if not the number one person at this current moment.
Yes, he's
and
right up there.
He also has a higher PER than James offensively, and his team has a much better record. So James is again penalized.
I don't really think there's much of an argument.
I don't think so either. I think people are like James. You look at James' scoring; what he's doing is phenomenal. But you do have to acknowledge that he's doing it in a system where he's allowed to miss literally 18 3-pointers if he wants to.
Yeah, and there's no. I mean, I'm talking about my man is like he is really playing with house money. I mean, for real. I
mean, yeah, his light ain't green; it's white.
It's just whatever, bro. So yeah, I don't think there's any question. I think Giannis is the MVP. All right, 1989 says, do you think that the NBA will expand to 32 or 34 teams within the next decade? If so, besides Seattle or Vegas, where do you think would be the best cities to go business and fan base wise? I definitely think Seattle has to be next. Mm-hmm. Vegas is definitely on that list, but I think St. Louis is a really possible and should be an attractive city for an NBA team. There was an ABA team there before, and so I think that first of all, the Midwest is just a basketball crazy region. Mm-hmm. In the United States, and I really don't consider it to be too hard to, I mean, and there's a really esteemed St. Louis prep basketball scene. There's quite a few people that come from St. Louis. Jason Tatum's from St. Louis. Darius Miles is from St. Mm-hmm. Louis. There's a lot of people from that area who have either gone to the NBA or whatever. Or the conversation's been there. So I think that that's a thing that could happen. Imagine seeing Nelly ring a courtside every game because you gotta have this. Every team gotta have their signature celebrity.
Is Nelly still a celebrity? I think he's a former celebrity. Let's not get distracted.
I think he's a celebrity. Why you going down, baby? Dope Street and the rain.
I half the people I played with in Pro-Am wasn't even born when his hits came out.
Hey man, that don't mean it wasn't relevant. Now, I'm not a big. I like, you know what? I like Nelly the person better than Nelly the artist. Like, he always seems like a pretty cool dude. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but yeah, it is what it is. Okay, so we're gonna skip over this question for right now because we're gonna go into something else before we get, because the FPVR is gonna take a second.
Yeah.
So M71408 says, who is better, Peak Pippen or Peak Grant Hill? I want to hear what you got to say about that, Nelson.
Okay, so the difficult thing about this is Pippen only had 1 year at his peak without Michael Jordan. Mm-hmm. He was awesome.
Yes, he was.
He was Grant Hill-like in that year, mm-hmm. but the rest of his time was spent with MJ. However, mm-hmm. when Grant Hill was in his peak, I saw him go up against Scottie Pippen, and they were mm-hmm. basically neck and neck, point for point. Mm-hmm. And for that reason, I'm going to say Peak Pippen.
I would go Peak Grant Hill. Mm-hmm. I think that Grant Hill, without an injury, would be in the same conversation.
Whoa. We just saw my Peak.
Yep, but and I'm basing this off of Peak. Peak Grant Hill tells me that without injury, we would be looking at his career in the same light that we look at Kobe's, LeBron's. He'd be in that same conversation. Were it not for the injury. And if that had happened, I don't think we even asked this question about who's better, Peak Pippen or Peak Grant Hill, because we would look at him completely differently because of what he actually accomplished. So if you're just talking about Peak, I mean, Grant was threatening a triple-double every night, and Grant was the #1 scoring option on his team, which, like Books was saying, most of Pippen's career, and this is no disrespect to Pippen, I love Pippen, and I usually am the one fighting for Pippen's respect. But in this particular comparison, I think we're talking about two different guys. We're talking about an alpha dog and a secondary guy.
And see, that is why I pick Pippen, because and we have this discussion about Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson is at best a second option, always.
In his best situation, in his ideal situation.
Right. And talent-wise, he's a second option. He doesn't have first option talent. But he's the best second option in a perfect situation. Like, if I have a perfect situation, my first pick for second option is going to be a Klay Thompson or a Scottie Pippen.
But that doesn't.
Grant Hill, real quick, Grant Hill, I don't think Grant Hill is a great second option. I think he's a guy that needs the ball in his hands. And ultimately, because he wasn't a great three-point shooter and he wasn't super aggressive offensively and he wasn't the defender that Pippen was, I think ultimately Pippen's effect is more positive than Grant Hill's.
See, but in a sense, that's not what the question was, though. The question was, who would you take peak?
Yeah, I would take peak Pippen and knowing I have to get a first option rather than peak Grant Hill knowing I have to get a second option.
I don't know. I think you adding some stuff to the question and adding some layers in there. And but I don't know. I mean, it's not crazy, because like I said, Pippen's amazing, but I don't know. So let's see. Our next question is from 1989. He says, what would you say are the 5 tools for an NBA player, and how many 5-tool players are there, if any? So there's a 5-tool baseball player. That's a guy who can hit for average, hit for power, has a good glove. He can run.
Can you repeat that question? Who would you say the 5-tool what?
Like, so how you evaluate a baseball player and say it's a 5-tool baseball player, right? So it's like the basic skills and how well do you excel at each of those skills. So if you were to try to apply that same concept to a NBA player or to a basketball player, what are those 5 tools, and how many players in the league right now do we think would actually have all 5 of those tools?
Okay.
I mean, I would say obviously is handle, being able to beat someone off the dribble. I would say obviously being able to shoot the 3. I would say depending on how you want to split up run and jump athleticism, or if you want to say that's all together the same, I would say that's one of them. I would say strength, physical strength is another. And then I would say vision and passing ability. And then even with that, I left out rebounding. So I don't even know if you can. So what did I say? Shoot from 3, shoot from distance, handle, I would say athleticism I would say agility, athleticism, strength, and then I guess is rebounding. I don't know if I left something out. But you can't even leave out the willingness, the mental commitment to defend, because that you can't leave that out either.
So for me, it would probably be more like playmaking overall, which would include ball handling and the ability to make the pass on and off the ball. It would well, with the ball in your hands for a while and with the ball just coming to your hands and then moving again. So playmaking. It would be on-ball defense, off-ball defense, rebounding, and I would say this is the tough thing, because with shooting, there's two distinctly different shooting categories, which is shooting off the dribble and shooting off the catch. And I think with NBA, you have to make it 6 stars because you play 2 sides of the ball at all times.
Yeah, I don't think you can fit in. I don't think you can fit it in 5.
I wouldn't put athleticism only in the sense because if a player can get it done, I don't care what the athleticism is. Like, for instance, Draymond Green is pretty unathletic, but things that he's able to do, some of those things are relegated to athletic players. They say this guy has the tools to be a great defender. They usually mean he's very quick with his feet. He has great quick reactions and all that stuff. Draymond does it with intelligence. So I don't care that he doesn't do it faster.
But he does do some of it with strength.
Strength, but I agree with you. But he has the tools. And the thing, that's one of the beautiful things about basketball is some steady, awesome point guards are Andre Miller. Some steady, awesome point guards are, more in the Chris Paul mold. Some guys are more in the athletic mold. But can you get the job done? Like De'Aaron Fox is a really steady point guard, insanely athletic. Insanely athletic. But so I care more about what the athleticism does than whether or not you have it.
But see, I think if you're looking for an apples to apples comparison to the 5-tool concept that you use in baseball, the tools don't tell you about the result. The tools and identifying them are telling you about whether or not the base or the talent is there. And I think that if you're trying, like I said, to make it an apples to apples comparison, you can't jump to the end and say, do they get it done? Because that's not how that's not the way that the concept works. Because if you say, can a guy hit for power? Can he hit for average? Does he have a strong arm? Is he fast? And does he have a good glove? That's not really talking about the results. It's talking about, does this person possess?
But here's the problem, though. There have been so many unathletic NBA players who were great and so many athletic NBA players who are terrible.
Exactly. But that's exactly what I'm saying. That's not how the concept works.
And you know what? That's probably why we don't apply that concept to basketball.
But you could, because you could say the same thing about baseball. You could say, oh, there's been so many big fat baseball players who didn't have an arm, who couldn't run that fast, but they're in the Hall of Fame. But it doesn't matter. They're in the Hall of Fame, but they weren't a 5-tool player. You know what I'm saying? It's two different things. It's two different things. Like, there are guys who are
flip, but with baseball, they say baseball is a game that you really can go by the numbers. Like, you can play money ball in baseball. And we have this pushback against analytics because many, many people experienced in the game really feel like there's just too many variables in the basketball game. There's too much motion. The ball goes from one side to the other. There's offense, defense, and then off ball between stuff. I don't think it works for basketball.
But it doesn't work because your mind is going to the results, and the tools are not about the results. The tools are about the basis, the beginning of the conversation, and you're going to the end of it. We're talking about, this is literally about physical tools, not about how they apply them. And so that's the thing.
But you said it's about physical tools. Why would you put 3-point shooting in there? That's not a physical tool.
It is a physical tool. It's the same. It's just as much a physical tool as hitting for average, being able to spray the ball here or there, being able to put the ball into an area. It's still a physical tool, because here's the thing: you may be a good shooter, right? You may be a good shooter, but the result might not be that you end up shooting or making as many threes as another guy, because there's another part of your game that you don't have. So that's a tool that you would still have, but it won't necessarily result in greatness even in that area, because you might be missing something else. So there's been 5-tool baseball players who have been flops because of something that happened, mentally, or some issue that's a little bit outside of the 5-tool area. So I think it can be applied, but I don't think it can be applied in 5 tools. I think there's too many. There's a few, maybe 6, but not 5. Let's see. I think we can go to FPVR now, because I don't think we got anything else unless something came in late.
Oh, well, real quick with the Kyrie Irving thing. Right, so I gotta ask us bro a question about Kyrie. Want to hit that real quick?
Oh yeah.
So, and we kind of brushed on this in the playoffs. The question was, is it Kyrie and the Celtics, or is it that Brad Stevens' offense is actually overrated? All right, and so I think the problem with the Celtics is that they are not built for Kyrie, and Brad Stevens' coaching issue with Kyrie is not with Kyrie. His coaching with Kyrie is fine. Kyrie's having his best season ever. And it's not like the Celtics are massively suffering when he's playing that way. The problem is they have too many players that play well without Kyrie. Too many players. They have two teams. They have a Kyrie team, and then they have like a Jason Tatum. What's the other guy's name? The other kid, Jaylen Brown's team, right? And Kyrie brings an issue because his defense isn't. They're not as strong defensively as when Terry Rozier is on the floor. And I think Boston plays well as a defensive identity. They don't have the tools. But I do think Gordon Hayward, potentially when he's healthy, plays better with Kyrie. I think the main problem is that Brad Stevens doesn't coach personalities well. So Brad Stevens is only good with certain kinds of personalities. He's only good with certain kinds of players. And the issue isn't that he can't individually coach Kyrie, because he coached with Isaiah Thomas, scoring 30 a night. And they were the Boston Celtics that you see without Kyrie, with a guy in that role. It's that personality-wise, he can't get Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown together and Terry Rozier to play the same way that they play without Kyrie, that they do with Kyrie. And I think it's more personality than X's and O's. This thing about Kyrie dribbling the air out the ball, that's not how he always plays with the Celtics. Like that's really not them. Like, it's not like he's going out there and, taking 16 dribbles every single play. He runs the offense a lot. And y'all know historically, I'm not a guy who defends Kyrie Irving, but I'm watching the games. And this is one of the reasons this has been such a crazy debate, is because you watch them and you just can't figure out why you guys play so much better when Kyrie's not there. It's not always what Kyrie's doing. They just don't play as well. And I think that the coach hasn't gotten them into the mindset psychologically to do what they need to do when they need to do it. They only can do it when Kyrie's not there. And I think that's the issue. I think it really is a personality thing more than X's and O's.
Well, I think that I would agree. To me, I think, Brad coaches better before it's like, okay, it's like, say you're training a fighter, right? And you're training a fighter, and while they're an up and coming fighter, and before they become a champion, the trainer has the fighter's ear completely, and they're buying into everything they're doing, whatever the game plan is, they're going out and they're doing it. But as they become more successful, they become a champion or whatever, now they're not listening as much. What I think is happening is that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have gotten a little too good to harmoniously share with a player like Kyrie Irving, because they're at a place in their careers where they feel they are ready to take a next step. They feel they are ready to become more a part or more a more dominant piece of their offense. And Brad Stevens doesn't run a real pro style offense as it pertains to depending upon one person to dominate the basketball, to facilitate everything. As Desar was saying in the chat, IT scored without ball controlling from the beginning of the possession much more than Kyrie. Kyrie needs time to pop, get his, survey the offense, the defense, and choose and pick his spot, where Isaiah Thomas was much more comfortable scoring within the flow of the offense.
Let's talk on that for a quick second. What I see when the Boston Celtics play without Kyrie is literally that some of their players just play harder. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I feel what you guys are saying from an offensive perspective, but when Kyrie's on the floor, it's not like they're a bad offensive team. What I'm saying is, like, they don't play as hard when they play with Kyrie. If nothing else changed, but they just played harder, I think they would be a better team with Kyrie Irving on the floor. And I do think that and they've spoken about this. This is not, I shouldn't even say I think. No, they've all said this outright. No, the young dudes is feeling themselves, and they don't like having to make adjustments now that they had a run.
I think it's a product of what we're talking about. If when you play ball, man, especially with bigs, right? If a big does not know that he's going to get his touches and he's going to be involved in the offense and the flow, and it's not just bigs, it's guys across an entire team. When they don't know they're going to get requisite touches in the offense, like, we go to practice and we all participate in practice. And we sat out here and we worked on this offense, and it's got this branch of play, this branch of play, this branch of play. And if this doesn't work, then the ball goes here, ball goes here, ball goes there. We did all that in practice. Everybody knows the offense. But then we get in the game, it's Kyrie time when we need a bucket. And I'm running my play, and I'm in the position where I'm supposed to be. I'm setting the screen I'm supposed to set. I'm falling into this area of the defense like I'm supposed to. But Kyrie's not giving me the ball because he's offensively brilliant. And he's going to get this bucket, or he's going to shoot it. And even if he scores, sometimes the other teammates feel a little like, okay, well, I guess I'm just out here then. And that affects you on both sides of the floor.
And here's my thing.
I think that's why you're not seeing people play as hard.
And I'm not 100% disagreeing with you. There's one thing I'm disagreeing with, and Czar said this a little bit. The perception is that Kyrie's doing that all the time. He's not. He went up 2 assists this year over last year, and they didn't have this problem with Kyrie last year.
You know what? I think that's a little deceiving because I've watched Kyrie multiple times this year, and people don't necessarily talk about stat padding with Kyrie as it relates to assist. But Kyrie, I haven't looked this up. I would love to see this. I wish Rashidi was in the chat because I'm sure he probably has it on hand. I would love to see what percentage of his assists come in the first half and in the first quarter. Because oftentimes he's far more generous with the ball early in games.
Well, first of all, that's a technique from Kobe.
No, actually, it's from Mike.
It's a game plan. Okay, it's from Mike too. So, so Kobe got it from Mike. You facilitate more in the beginning, you create more weapons, and blah blah blah. And I'm not saying Kyrie's perfect, but I don't think it's the Kyrie Irving show when Kyrie plays, and then it's the Boston Celtics show when he sits down. Kyrie Irving plays Boston Celtics basketball enough that I can real quick.
No, I'm agreeing. Yeah, I agree with this.
I can put it on the younger guys and say, y'all aren't trying as hard. And the reason that you gave, I don't think that's a good reason because Kyrie, like you said, he's efficient, right? So it's not like he's taking a whole bunch of bad shots and all this, that, and the other. There are some plays that Kyrie makes that I'm like, you should have gave that up. I think that happens sometimes. I think the guys are overreacting to that though, because when you play with a great player, you have to have that weapon too.
Let me ask you this question. Have you ever played with a guy who was really, really good, but just was not fun to play with?
Yeah, for sure.
I have played.
But see, I don't think that's necessarily the case because there are other teammates that Kyrie has.
But okay,
that aren't saying that.
I agree with what you're saying, and I don't think that that's the way that it should be because I think you should just want to win. But I know that this is a fact that sometimes you play with a person who they get buckets. They get buckets. And they might take 75% of the shots that they take are good shots, but then they got this other 25% you like, dude. But he makes them. He makes them sometimes, or he makes them enough times. And I do think that Kyrie is playing enough Celtic style basketball for the guys to just be like, okay, because you still got to let him be Kyrie, because that's what you went and got him for.
And that's my point. Is like,
but I think the problem with that is the system is so much about running the system over running with a spectacular individual player that sometimes that he's too good for the system. That's what I think.
I think with Kyrie only taking 18 shots a game at his skill level, because he is super skilled, right? He's taking 18 shots a game and he has 7 assists. And a lot of times he passes the ball in the flow to offense. Like I'm watching the games, I'm seeing this happen. And I think, honestly, the pick and roll with him and Al Horford is underutilized.
It is.
Al Horford's mid-range shot is insane still. And he can hit the 3. Like, it's unguardable.
Yeah.
I think there's some pouting going on with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
And I think it's Jaylen more than anybody.
Yeah, well, I would say Jaylen is pouting more. Tatum plays harder when Kyrie's not there. You know? Like when Kyrie's not there, Jason Tatum just plays harder. Like literally, just watch it. Like, tell me what you see.
Yeah,
because
I haven't noticed that. That's something I'd have to like kind of focus on to see because it hasn't jumped out at me, so I won't say that it isn't, but I'd have to like really like pay attention to that moving forward. It's probably a little late now because you're probably gonna get the best Jason Tatum now you're gonna see because it's playoff time. But you know,
so my thing is, I think pouting is a bigger problem than Kyrie. I think the offense that they have, the ebbs and flows, Kyrie isolating, 18 shots a game, I think is a fine number. If you have Kyrie Irving taking less than 18 shots of a game on that roster, I think you're probably not using them enough, to be honest with you. Yeah. You know, do you really want Kyrie Irving taking less than 18 shots on almost 50% shooting? Like this, listen, there's a few, there are, I agree. There's some shots that Kyrie takes that I'm like, you should throw that out. Al Horford was in the corner, you should hit him. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm saying that doesn't justify your pouting because he makes that shot more often than not. He's a great free throw shooter.
And he's a dynamic scorer. So
you gotta take that sometimes.
You gotta let him. You gotta let people take some Kobe shots sometimes if they, you know.
100%. 100%. So, you know, I think the pouting is the number one problem. And the thing is, I do think, and this is why I put it on Brad Stevens, but not as an X's and O's guy. Because X's and O's, it looks fine. As a coach, though, I don't think Greg Popovich would have this problem. I don't think Rick Carlisle would have this problem. You know, I think a Greg or a Rick or a Doc Rivers would be on those young guys like, yo, this is what you need to do. You didn't do it here. You just didn't do it. You know, if Kyrie was shooting 43%, I'd be like, all right, you know, blah, blah, blah. If Kyrie, his assists weren't there, I know some of the assists could be padded, but I really don't think, again, 18 shots a game, you look at the Rockets, James Harden's shooting like 30 shots a game. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know,
I definitely don't mean to villainize Kyrie. It's because sometimes there doesn't have to be a villain for there to be something wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're looking at here. There's something wrong here. There's a mismatch here. And I don't know that it's anybody's fault necessarily. It's just a mismatch.
Czar trying to get out of pocket. He's talking about the Kyrie defense. No, this isn't the Kyrie defense. I'm giving credit to. I'm openly listen. I'm gonna tell y'all straight up. Breaking news, right? It's a Fox News alert. I don't even want Kyrie Irving to come to the Knicks.
Not Fox News. We gotta do another news stat.
Yeah. But anybody else got news alerts? I don't know. But anyway, I don't even want Kyrie on the Knicks. I legit don't. Like, it looks like it's going to happen from all of this stuff. I would rather we got the second round pick and drafted Ja Morant and had to get somebody else. I'm not a Kyrie Irving fan. Like, I'm not rooting for the Celtics. Yeah, I like them more than I like other Celtics teams, but I'm not rooting for them.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
You done started a chant.
He missed being the host of the show. You see what happened when he ain't host? You see how he happy? Get on the shows off so we can mute you.
Terrible. We're gonna have to have our first ever special guest. This is episode 20, and we ain't had a special guest, but he gonna make himself a special guest. All right, so it's time to talk FPVR.
Tell us about it.
All right, so the FPVR stands for the Franchise Player Value Rating. Okay, it is designed to measure the players who have been of the greatest value to each franchise in the NBA. And the factors are basically what you're supposed to, what it takes into account is individual accolades, individual statistics, tenure, and team success.
Okay.
Right? So those are the things. Now you have to have played for a team for at least 3 seasons to even be eligible.
Okay, and what does a FPVR stand for?
I just said that. See, this is not a good class.
No,
this is not a good class. I just said it stands for the Franchise Player Value Rating.
Okay.
See, this tells me already that you're not going to be down because you're not taking this serious.
I am. I'm taking this so.
You're not plugged in. I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my.
All right. So give me some info.
All right. So for years of service, for every year of service, you get 3 points. So whatever your career scoring average is with that team, that's taken as face value. Same thing with rebounding, average per game, the assist average per game, the steals, and the blocks. Now, the steals and the blocks are tricky because the stats for steals and blocks weren't kept into the 72, 73 season. So that, I mean, 73, 74 season. So that.
Well, we can start from the modern era on.
Well, I don't do that. I know you don't like anything pre-merger.
See, hold on. Now, see, I told the people that I watch your streams, I watched you besmirch my name.
I absolutely
in front of everybody. Yes, you said that Books doesn't like talking about anything before 1975. No,
you don't.
Is not.
You don't.
No,
you don't.
see,
you
I'm
don't.
trying to explain to you why you're wrong.
You smear doo-doo on the name of every man who played basketball before 1975.
I tremendously enjoy talking about NBA history. What I said was it is in a historical context because the game and the rules change. That changes the context.
Okay.
And also, along with the changes of the NBA rules, were the changes in technology. And
here's the thing. I don't disagree with any of that.
Okay. So I can't judge it side by side when we have literally every frame of Zion's basketball existence and Wilt Chamberlain's.
Yeah, I got all Will Smith's games on tape.
Wilt Chamberlain's most important game ever is a picture of him holding up the number 100. Okay, all right? Well, I'm saying I can't compare them side by side.
I'm not even going to get into that.
I'm saying for the sake of this conversation, for me to judge FPVR, can we stick to players above 1975 that we have film on, please?
I can't do that, and here's the reason why. Because this is not an evaluation of talent.
Okay. It's franchise value.
Exactly. Because there are going to be some people who were more talented than others who are not on this list, without question. But they may not have accomplished as much with that franchise. They may not, the statistics may not be there, or they may simply not have spent as many years in the franchise. All of it gets put in together. So I'll tell you, the results of the FPVR, for the most part, are pretty sound. Okay, so let me finish with the
according to whom?
With the form. I'm going to tell you. So you get 3 points for championship rings. You get 1 point for playing on a team that made the playoffs. You get 1.5 points for playing on a team that reached the conference finals.
Wait a minute.
Oh God, here we go.
Hold on.
Heaven help us today, Lord Jesus help.
I have questions. You want me to pay attention? I got a deep dive.
Yes. Go.
So according to this,
yes.
A player who joins a team and wins 3 championship rings could possibly be less valuable than a player who gets booped in the first round 4 times?
No, because it's a double up. Because if you got a championship ring, you made the playoffs. So you got the points for making the playoffs. You also got the points for making the conference finals. You also got the points for making the finals. And then you also got the additional 3 points for making a ring, for winning a championship ring.
Okay.
So yeah, you don't miss that. You get 5 points for making an all-star team.
Why is an all-star team more points than all right?
Because you did that. I mean, because it's less than a championship ring, because I'm giving 3 points to the guy who was the star all the way down to the guy who was the last guy on the bench. But if you're an all-star, it separates that. I gave 0.5 point for being an all-star game MVP. It's only 0.5 point because it's not that big of a deal, but I thought it needed to be represented. 10 points for winning a league MVP. 10 points for winning a finals MVP, because I think in the scope of a franchise value, winning a finals MVP is just as big as winning a league MVP. If you're an all NBA first team selection, it's 8 points. If you're a second team selection, it's 5 points. If you're third team selection, it's 3 points. If you're the rookie of the year, it's 3 points. If you're defensive player of the year, 3 points. If you're a sixth man of the year, it's 3 points, which is tricky, as well as the defensive player of the year, because that particular statistic or award wasn't given out to the 82-83 season. And then I also have a scaled point selection for all defensive first, second, and third team. So now I'm going to tell you the results of this, as I've said, have come out fairly decently. I think great.
So if you were to, someone told me that Grant Hill has a higher rating than Isaiah Thomas.
This is my point. People don't hear. They don't hear The FPVR has nothing to do with my ratings formula. I have a separate ratings formula that is entirely different than the FPR tells me who's going to be on the team. The ratings formula is something completely different. Yes, Grant Hill has a higher rating than Isaiah Thomas, because if you look at Isaiah Thomas's best now, okay, Isaiah Thomas is a 93 overall. Now, I will let you know that my ratings are much lower than 2K's ratings, because I have no idea what some of the stuff they were smoking when they rated some of these players, because I'm like, where in the world did you ever see this guy doing that where you gave him that? Because what I think happens with 2K a lot is 2K says, oh, this guy has a reputation of being a great player. So we feel a responsibility to jack his overall rating up to here, which now has him doing stuff he never did.
I would also say the overall rating favors well-rounded players over specialists, which is not always because Shaq with such a low free throw rating, such a low mid-range rating, such a low three-point rating should have a much lower rating than Hakeem Olajuwon, say.
Wait a minute, say that one more time. Say that last thing again.
I said he should have a lower rating.
Who is that?
Shaq.
Shaq should have a more lower
than Hakeem on paper. Like if you were just to rate them in every category, Hakeem's averages are going to be higher because he scores in more things higher. But on the court, because of Shaq's specialized skill.
But see, I think some of the specialized skill factors into the rating because there's a strength rating.
Yeah, there's a strength rating, but Hakeem doesn't get a 0. That's the problem.
No, he doesn't get a 0. But
so here's the thing: if you get a 50 in three-pointer, and I get an 80, and you get a 50 in free throw, and I get an 85, and you get a 99 in strength, and I get an 85, my overall average is going to be higher than yours, even though that 99 in strength might be more of a prominent factor in head-to-head play. And so that's why overall ratings and overall value aren't going to be the same thing.
100%.
But how is Grant Hill a more valuable Piston than Isaiah Thomas?
No, he's not. He's not a more valuable Piston. He's just a higher rated player in the game. It's a different.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? He's not. Isaiah Thomas is far and away the #1 player on the Pistons FPVR. He has his total is 206.8, and #2 is Joe Dumars, and he's at 155.3. Okay. Grant Hill is 5th on the FPVR list.
Sorry.
So yes. What is? You know what? I gotta get Zog. What are you talking about? Oh, he said, don't drag 2K into this FPVR, man. Yeah, 2K, you know what? I'm trying to tell you. Hey, dude, some of the ratings, like, as I'm rating players, and what Books just said is actually 100% correct about how specialists get a shaft. Because I just honestly rated Reggie Miller. Honestly, right? I watched so much Reggie Miller, it's ridiculous. Like, Reggie Miller might be the guy who I watched as much as any non-Bulls player. Right, I loved Reggie Miller, and I rated him honestly, and he's like an 82.
Right. But the thing is, if you had the skills of clutch rating, catch and shoot, contest shot, and Reggie scores so high in those shots that the difference between him and, say, I was going to say Devin Booker, but he's actually not that good of a shooter. Who else is like a good shooter? Say Buddy Hield.
Right.
The difference between Reggie Miller and Buddy Hield at this point in their careers is going to be really big in close games.
Yes.
Because the small margin of error the defense has on Reggie versus Buddy, right? Like, Reggie should be scoring with such a tiny margin of error that it feels like he's in takeover as soon as you hit the end of the game, because all of his ratings are coming into fruition.
Yeah, right? Because I think what there is there is there's a difference between the overall rating, which is just this generic formula, right? And then there's a such thing as an impact rating, right? And Reggie's impact, I've played with this Reggie Miller that I created, and his impact is significant. You cannot leave him, and that floor spacing is not accounted for in the overall rating.
And I think 2K uses. 2K has to make a devil's bargain of either overrating a player in a category or using inconsequential stats to move the overall up.
Yes, that's exactly what happens. The hands rating moves people up quite a bit. From having made these players and created them and taking guys' ratings up and down, it would probably shock people how big of a deal or how big of an impact the hands rating has on the overall rating.
Right.
And I got an explanation on what the hands rating does from Mike Wang. He told me that it is for loose balls. And it's for loose balls and catching, which I think it should be for more than that. And I shared that with him. And I think that it should be a little bit further, or there should be another piece of that on top of it. But yeah, but it takes it up quite a bit. So and like so I got a lot of flack for my Iverson rating, right? But I had to pay attention to the stats, and Iverson was never a good a high percentage 3-point shooter, never, right? So, well, he was with the Nuggets, he was better his 3-point shooting with the Nuggets was much better, but with the Sixers, it was a lot of it was mid-range stuff, and his overall field goal percentage, dude. There was one year he averaged like 29 a game, but he shot 38% from the field. You know, so if I'm representing that in the game, yes, I have to represent that this is Iverson, and to me, I do that with badges.
Well, here's the thing with a guy like Iverson. He's a great case study because he's a guy similar to Russell Westbrook, actually, that you can rate him one way. The problem is that a lot of his problems are up here. So when you put him in the game, he's going to overperform, even if you rate him accurately, right? So with Iverson, with a 99 speed, 99 ball handle.
Everything you just said is what I have.
Right. The crossover animations are going to be the cheesiest crossover animations you can possibly find. The layup rating, all of that stuff is going to be very high. As we talked about with Kyrie Irving, he's not going to take them Kobe shots that he shouldn't be taking if you're controlling him. And you never get tired. You don't feel the same level of pressure. So yeah, you have to be careful with rating these players for that reason.
And I didn't want to fall into because this is my 4th year doing this roster, and I probably shouldn't take it as serious as I do, but I want to make sure it's dope, right? Like I'm spending my time doing this. I want to make sure it's dope. And I got Razor's help this year. So Razor that's why I switched it to PC, because I wanted the faces to look like they're supposed to look. And he's been killing it. You know, really shout out to him. But like, so I didn't want to fall into, oh, that's one of my favorite players, or everybody thinks this dude is really dope. So I want to make sure his rating doesn't piss anybody off. And I think that that's what people kind of get into. Like Iverson, so many people who, if you were in your teens or early 20s in the 90s, it's a good chance Iverson might be either your favorite player or your second favorite player, right? So because of that, everybody's like, hey, you know, Iverson should be a 97. Dude, no, he can't. Not the way that this game works.
Well, even Iverson himself, when he talks about matching up with Kobe, let's say, he would say, I would try to get Kobe on the offensive end because there was no way I could guard him on the other end. These are his words.
Yeah.
That's for a reason. Yeah. That's an imbalance in things that should show up in the ratings. That has to be represented in the game. The fact that one guy can't guard the other guy.
Yeah, think about it, man. We're talking about a 6-foot, 165-pound shooting guard. How can that guy, as great as he is, ever be rated in the 90-something?
Well, and here's the issue with Iverson. The reason he couldn't play point guard would never manifest in 2K. You would always play him at point guard in 2K.
I play him he starts at point guard on the all-time Sixers.
He's one of the great point guards ever if he just plays proper point guard. But let's go to FPBR, because we agreeing on a lot of stuff, and we probably going to disagree on this right now. So, according to your metric,
yes,
Robert Horry and Tim Duncan get the same amount of points for their championship
ring. You talking about with the Spurs?
Yeah.
Well, no, because Duncan has some rings without Horry.
I'm saying for the rings that they got together. Let's say hypothetically, any time that a star player doesn't get Finals MVP, they get the exact same amount of points for the championship as a role player.
they get the same amount of points in the championship, but they don't get the same amount of points for the season, because obviously if you were a better performer, that's where the individual statistics roll in.
So and here's my first major disagreement with the system.
Mm-hmm.
I think being at the top of your team in the major categories, we can just for now call it leadership, but you can calculate it if you want with PER and points per game and all that stuff, defensive player of the year. Those things will help contribute towards it. But those players who bring the championship to the team should get more points for the championship, especially because a lot of times other players on that team are either brought in or go to the team so that they can win with that player.
Mm-hmm.
So that player should get more points. Like Kobe Bryant and Derek Fisher should not share points for as much stuff.
Well, see, here's the thing. I kind of see what you're saying, but
Because
what I've I see, but I know what I've noticed from doing this for every single team for the past 4 years is that it doesn't actually end up working out that way. Because yes, they do get this. It like just with simple math, it appears that they get the same amount of points, but they don't turn out getting that same amount of points because let me think of a situation like, okay, like even like Isaiah Thomas, Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman was a big part of those 2 championships in Detroit, but he doesn't get the same amount of points as Isaiah for that season. And it's really more about the season than it is about just the championship, because it's more about the entire tenure. And because Isaiah was a better player than Rodman, Isaiah gets his due. Joe Dumars gets his due. And to me, the proof is that you never really see, I don't think you see anybody who was like, okay, like here's one of the ones that I get flack for. Dennis Rodman is not on, he doesn't make the Bulls FPVR. And the reason why he doesn't is because he never made an all-star team with the Bulls. He only played 3 seasons, which is the bottom line minimum for being there. And because the Bulls won 6 championships and they had so much team success. And then there are some players who maybe didn't win the championships, but they were so much better from a overall standpoint than Rodman that they beat him out.
So let me ask your Bulls team real quick, because I'm going to ask a couple of your teams so we can start. So you only go to the top 5?
I got 15, top 15.
Top 15, okay. And Rodman doesn't make top 15.
He doesn't make top 15. He barely misses, but he doesn't. Well,
Okay.
Actually, he misses by a little bit. But
so who's your top 15 on the Bulls?
Michael Jordan, of course. Michael Jordan is
Michael Jordan, Scottie
second place. Second place is not close.
Right.
Scotty's next. Bob Love is 3rd. Derrick Rose is 4th. Jerry Sloan is 5. Joakim Noah is 6. Norm Van Leer is 7.
Hold on. So Joakim Noah is more valuable to the Bulls franchise than Horace Grant?
And here's why. It is. It's about the tenure. It has a lot to do with it. Joe has had 9 seasons with the Bulls. Grant had I forget how many it is. I got it in here, but he has more seasons than him. And if Joakim Noah had not had the amount of playoff appearances that he had and had not been a part of the team going to the conference finals, he was an all-star and a defensive player of the year, all defensive team, all NBA first team one year. So it took a lot, and he just barely beats him. He only beats him by 5 points. Actually, not even a full 5. Well, yeah, 5.1 points. It took a lot of individual accolades to move past Horace Grant, because Horace Grant is right after Norm Van Leer. Horace Grant is 8th. So yes, short answer, yes. Joakim Noah, he has a higher FPVR.
All right, continue your list.
And then Artis Gilmore, Desar's uncle, is 9th. Chet Walker is 10th. Luol Deng is 11th.
Okay.
Tony Kukoc is 12th.
Luol Deng has more value than Tony Kukoc?
Hey, I'm telling you,
There's a bug in the system.
It's not a bug
There's
in the
a bug
system.
in the system.
It's not
man.
a bug because you yourself talked about how instrumental a player was in a specific run. Grant absolutely was the third most important player on 3 different championship teams. He was. And I think that Horace Grant was a much better player than Dennis Rodman. I get a lot of flack for that, but I think as the Bulls were a better team. The first 3 championship teams, I think, especially the second one that beat Portland, I think was the best Bulls championship team of all. It was even better than the 72-10 team.
Mm-hmm.
But Grant was the third best player on those teams. Joakim Noah was the heart and soul of the Chicago Bulls. Yes, Rose was the best player, but Noah was the heart and soul. He was an all-around player, and he did end up getting his own individual accolades. And the team, and he was on the team that went to a conference final. And he played on the team longer than Grant and Kukoc. So you got to think about it. Kukoc was a 6-man the almost the entire time he was with the Bulls. So that definitely kept his scoring down. He never made an all-star team with the Bulls. You can say like the example that you gave about coming to a team specifically to be better because you're joining on with superstars. That is absolutely Tony Kukoc.
Right, and he helped the Bulls a lot now.
Oh, he absolutely did. No, I mean, Tony could have been a 20-25 point a game guy on a different team, but it's not about that. It's about what he did on this team.
All right. So what's your Lakers look like?
The Lakers have, let's see, Vern Mickelson's number 1. No, I'm joking. No, Kobe's number 1. And he has a pretty big lead over Magic.
Yeah, he played a lot more.
A lot longer.
He played a lot. And they have the same amount of rings, and Kobe scored more. So.
Yes. And but Magic got the 3 MVPs, which is, significant. But it still didn't make a difference.
Yeah, well, you know how I feel about MVP, and I'm looking at it this year. If Harden wins over Giannis, I will never care about MVP.
He's not gonna win. There's no way. But Kobe's number 1, Magic's number 2, Kareem is number 3, Jerry West is number 4, Elgin Baylor is 5, Shaq is 6, George Mikan is 7, Michael Cooper is 8.
See. That I know what it is. I know because Shaq only played.
Yes.
How many years did he play?
8.
8. I mean, 8 is a long time, dude.
8 is a lot, but dude, Elgin Baylor. I mean, like,
but he didn't win no championships though.
Yeah. Well, it depends on how you want to do the last championship that he. I mean, he
didn't. He did not win that championship.
He was on the team and he got a ring though.
No, he retired before. He didn't play.
He left, like he played the first 17 games and he retired mid.
Yeah, he didn't play in the playoffs.
No, he didn't play in the playoffs.
He didn't win the championship. You don't win a championship if you don't play. Stop. See what happens.
But now, you know what? I actually debated back and forth after whether I should give him that 3 points for that ring. But his edge over Shaq is more than 3 points.
No, it shouldn't be though, because this is what I was talking about, this is exactly my point. Because Shaq being the most dominant force in the league and leading the Lakers to 3 straight, and also bringing Kobe along into his prime as a winner, set the Lakers up for, I mean, how many years of dominance was it from their first championship to Kobe's last championship? Like, they dominated the league, and Shaq was a big part of the reason that kicked that off. And the Lakers, when they won their 3 championships, it was, people don't remember, but it was bad. Like, when they ran through to Philly was the only team that even got a game off of them for a year. That's insane.
Yeah, I see. But here's
Elgin Baylor never won a ring. It's one thing if he had like 2 and you could be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. He didn't even have one. And Shaq went to 4 straight finals.
And obviously, I'm not.
During the Tim Duncan and Karl Malone and Chris Webber and Peja Stojakovic. Like, that's
here's the thing. Much of the things that you're mentioning cannot be quantified. And if you're making a formula, you can't really include.
You can if you have the top PER players get more credit for their championship rings than the role players. That solved. Cold case solved. Roll credits.
So you're saying that you're saying basically you create a list or a scale and says that if you are one of the, or not even a scale, if you're the top 3 in the top 3 of the PER, right? And you and you win a championship.
Let's
You win a
rephrase
championship.
this in the form of a question. If you gave, first of all, if you gave every starter, and let's throw on the 6th man, if the 6th man was a 6th man and not just, the first guy off the bench, right? If you gave every starter in true 6th man one extra point off over the bench players for their championship,
right?
And then for the remaining people, those 6 or 5 that are remaining, you gave them 1 extra point in order of PER, and 2 more points for the guy who was tops in PER. What would that be a bad thing for your system?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think it would be a bad thing. I don't. I think it's actually a pretty decent idea. No, I do. I think it's a pretty decent idea. Specifically for this particular argument, it wouldn't make a difference. And the reason why it wouldn't make a difference is you would need far more than that, because we're talking about, like, if we were talking about like Kurt Rambis or somebody, then if we're talking about Kurt Rambis versus Shaq, then it would make a huge difference. But Elgin Baylor was arguably the best player in the NBA during the time, right?
Yeah, but if you don't,
Elgin Baylor they went to 9 finals. They went to 9 finals. They couldn't beat the Celtics, right? They went to 9 NBA finals. He was a 10-time all NBA first team player. He averaged more points, rebounds, assists, and steals during his Laker career than Shaq.
Now, but here's the thing. I'm going to go with a different case. And I know he's probably number 1 on this list. But take Dirk Nowitzki and his finals, right? I thought that was one of the greatest finals runs in NBA history. And they recently had a conversation about Dwayne Wade. Was he ever the best player in the league? I don't really care about that. But they related it to the fact that some people said Dirk Nowitzki was the best player in the league when he won the championship. Actually, he definitely was. Dirk Nowitzki, during that championship run, not as an overall player, but during that run, was as unstoppable of a monster as I've seen anybody be in the playoffs. And that's why he has a ring. And he should get much, much, much more credit for that championship, according to how incredible he was. That should be recorded in the data.
But here's my thing. What I've noticed is that it doesn't matter. Because
it matters when you have, it clearly does.
How?
Because a 3-time champion on a team should have more clout than a no champion. The point is to win the championship.
If it would be different if we're talking about a no championship guy who never sniffed the championship, who was not nearly the player. Elgin Baylor was arguably just as impacting to his team as Shaq was to his. They just didn't win.
Shaq won championships.
Shaq won championships, but Shaq never won a championship without Kobe, so you can't completely take that away.
No, Kobe would get tremendous points according to his
absolutely. PR. But I mean, it's just I don't know. I don't personally see an issue with that particular one. Well, I can see how in some instances that would be a really, really valid point, and it's like, wow, really? But that one, because of the caliber of player that Elgin Baylor was, I don't have no problem.
Here's the thing. While I agree with you that the goal of this is to make sure that tenure and playoff appearances doesn't ever encroach upon championships, I think what it does, I think one of the most valuable pieces of information of a historic team is the key players that brought championships to that team. 100%. The guys who were the best.
100%.
And I think it's funny enough, I'm not even the biggest Shaq fan in the world, but I think Shaquille O'Neal deserves, that should be noted. Like, the fact that he was the most dominant thing the league had possibly ever even seen for that number of years, and the fact that they beat so many great teams and that he did it in such tremendous fashion. And again, I'm one of the first people to jump up and tell you Kobe averaged almost 30 points a game during that time. I get it. But that should be noted.
No, you know what?
Because it matters.
I can dig. You know what I can dig? I can dig a separate category in the FPVR that says something like prime time player or something to that effect. And what it does is it recognizes if you were so say for instance like this. So if you say, I'm going to take the top 3 pers on the team for that particular season, right? And if you were, so say if you were the number 1 guy, you get a 3. If you were the number 2 guy, you get a 2. If you're the number 3 guy, you get a 1. You get 1 extra point. And so, and for each year that you were that guy, you get these extra points because you were that guy from an all around standpoint. And I could dig that. And that could potentially make it could potentially make and I guess maybe if you're that guy for a championship team, right, then it matters too. But I don't know. It gets a little,
because that would, like, because Derek Fisher is actually a really good case.
Yeah, he's actually 15 on the list.
So, but you look at Derek Fisher versus other players, it would account for the fact that as a starter, he, and the clutch shooting, all that stuff, it would account for that. He would be on there because he was a starter on those teams. His PER would give him certain numbers and blah, 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 over guys who might have had better numbers than him, but either didn't win as much or, were on the bench and stuff like that. I think it would just organize that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can kind of dig that. I could actually kind of dig that.
I'm happy to help you, man. I just want to hear it.
Here's the thing. Okay, so somebody asked, they wonder where Pau Gasol is. The Pau Gasol did not make the Lakers team. Making the Lakers is probably one of the Lakers. That's right. It's insane because they've had so much winning.
Yeah, and you got guys like James Worthy.
I mean, you got even like Wilt Chamberlain's on the list, right? But he's low for the Lakers. He's only 12th. But I mean, Wilt averaged 17 and 19 and 4 with the Lakers, and was an all-star every year he was there. And you know what I'm saying? So it's, you know what I'm saying? It's I mean, wow. It just, then, you look at guys like Gail Goodrich and you're like, okay, well, how? But you don't realize Gail Goodrich went to 4 finals. He won a ring. He was a 4-time All-Star. He averaged 19 a game.
The
Lakers
are a beast of a franchise.
It's a beast.
There's going to be good players left off.
It's impossible for it not to be. But what I wanted to make sure was that the right person was at the top of the list for every team. Bob Pettit's number 1 for the Hawks. Dominique Wilkins is 2nd. People don't realize how good Bob Pettit was from a statistical standpoint. Well, we can argue would he even be in the league in today's game? Maybe, maybe not. But for the time he played, he dominated. Bill Russell was actually number 1 for the Celtics. Think about the rings.
Yeah, of course. That's no question. That's not even
right. Kemba Walker is number 1 for Charlotte. That just shows you how bad that franchise has been.
Yeah, it's tough.
This year, he just moved past Larry Johnson.
And it's also a young franchise.
Yes. Of course, Mike is number 1 for the Bulls. LeBron is number 1 for Cleveland. Dirk is number 1 for Dallas. Alex English is number 1 for Denver. David Thompson's number 2. And if somebody's wondering, Melo is 4. Isaiah's number 1 for the Pistons. Rick Barry is number 1 for Golden State for right now. We'll see how that runs because Rick Barry does have a ring. He has a ring. And Rick Barry averaged 25, 7, 5, 2 steals, 5 playoffs, 3 conference finals, 2 finals, a ring, and what is this? 8-time All-Star, and what is this? 7 All NBA first team.
This is where what I'm talking about would come into play because Rick Barry's a great player.
Yes.
And deserves to be at the top of the Golden State list. But Steph Curry is the greatest player in Golden State history.
And see, here's what I'm saying. This is not about talent.
It's not about talent, but I'm talking about just from a contribution standpoint. Steph Curry is the leader of the greatest era in Golden State history. Golden State has been the most dominant team in the league since 2015.
But see, here's my thing.
Real quick, if Steph Curry got more credit for being great on championship teams, that would separate him from Rick Barry. And that,
Well,
I think more people would agree with that result.
well, here's the thing: if they win the championship this year, by the end of this year, he may pass. He will
But
probably
if
pass
Steph retires tonight,
him.
seriously though, right? Am I right? Like if they lose in the first round, Steph
If,
Curry is still the #1 Golden State Warrior in franchise history. And it's not just because he's more talented than Rick Barry or the era that we're playing in. You're talking about 5 years of being the baddest kid on the block, and he's the #1 reason.
yeah, you know what?
Kevin Durant sits down, they look like they better.
But see, here's where you have to. That's where you have to bring in something that is really not quantifiable, in my opinion, because now you're talking.
It is quantifiable. Give Steph more credit.
No, you said
in
that this is the most important era in Warriors history, and I do not dispute that. I 100% agree with that, right? But that's not anything that's an opinion still, even though it's a popular opinion. It's still an opinion.
I'm on paper. The number of wins that they have, this is the greatest they've ever been. Let's put it that way. That's not an opinion. That's objective.
But it's the greatest they ever been. But think about it like this. Think about it from this standpoint. It's the greatest they've ever been because they are such an amazing team overall. Steph Curry was amazing before all of this came together. Of course, yes, he's a better player now than he was early. But part of why they're this good is because of the team. Yes, Steph is the man.
#1 reason.
He is the man. He is the man.
#1 reason.
He is the man. But Rick Barry was the man on his team, and it wasn't as good of a team.
Correct. But Steph, you said franchise value. Steph has the most franchise value in Golden State Warriors history.
See,
and if you gave Steph more, I know you agree with that. So if you gave Steph more credit for his championship accomplishments and his role in leadership during those accomplishments, that would separate him from a guy as decorated as Rick Barry, but not nearly as accomplished.
But check this out. If Steph had won a freaking finals MVP,
that doesn't.
It does.
You know why it's irrelevant?
You know why it matters? You know why it matters? Because Rick Barry won finals MVP when they won.
That doesn't matter to me. I think finals MVP can be overrated. And here's why. Because the main reason is if it was playoffs MVP, I would agree with you. But finals MVP is so heavily related to circumstances and matchups. It's one series. Like on the Shaq and Kobe teams, there's certain matchups, particularly against the Spurs and Sacramento Kings, where Kobe was like arguably the primary reason they got past. It was the fact that they couldn't match up with Kobe, that they beat those teams because you had Tim Duncan and Chris Webber pulling Shaq out the paint, giving him fits in different ways. When they got to the Eastern Conference team, he was facing against Jason Collins.
So,
come on, son. Like
some of this, what you're saying,
he could average 90.
Some of this, what you're saying, I don't necessarily disagree with.
Right.
But here's the thing: you can't break from the formula.
You
can't break from it with every single instance because you're going to start to see some of this stuff as a case by case basis.
But here's the thing: what I'm saying, if you gave more, we could debate how many points. But
right.
If you gave the starters / 6-man, if it applies, more credit for their role on championship teams, this would even out the results. Even
so, you're going to really be mad the fact that Steph's not even #2; he's #3.
Wow.
Will Chamberlain's #2. Will Chamberlain? Okay, come on, man. Think about.
I don't even think it's close. I think Steph has. I think if you're the Golden State Warriors overlord and you say who is the one player that I want for what they've done for me ever, it's clearly Steph Curry. Like clearly.
Here's the thing. I think also you might be being a little too literal with the word franchise value. And I know that partly is on me because that's the name of the formula, but you're looking at it and you're taking the word value and you're partly defining it by something that is not based on pure numbers. You're basing it because you're starting it off with a concept that's not about numbers, but then you're turning it to a number because you're saying, if you ask me who's done the most for me, that's not about numbers. That's about me. And I'm not saying that what you come up with as a result is incorrect, but you're thinking about which one has been the most which one is most valuable. And if you do that, what you're doing is you're like, okay, you may not realize it, but you're considering the era, because the greatest player today is always going to be more valuable from a standpoint.
I'm not considering the era, because here's the thing. This would actually correct for past times too, because if you take a player like, say, Dr. J on the Sixers, his championships would give him more and would help make up for some of that time he missed in the ABA compared to modern players. I don't think there's anything wrong with giving players extra credit for being starters and stars on championship teams. That is not a bad concept.
No, I don't think it's a bad concept, but you know what? I don't think that it would change it as much as you think, because some of these issues or some of these situations that you're arguing them against other fantastic players who have a distinct edge in some key statistical categories. Like, you might not realize it, but Rick Barry has a higher points per game average, more rebounds, and the difference in assist is only 1.5 per game. He also has more steals, more blocks per game, and he played with the team longer.
Points average is one of those things where it counts in bad years. You know what I'm saying?
But see, that stuff right there, that's when you start bringing all that in, then now you're kind of this is
like take Draymond Green, right? Draymond Green's a great example, because Draymond was super valuable on the championship teams.
Yeah, he's number 10.
But playing under Mark Jackson, he didn't get a lot of productivity in those years, even though Mark Jackson started the whole thing up. Taught those guys how to play defense. But Draymond getting proper credit for his championship contributions, it would give him all that he needs. Not saying that he's the problem here. I'm just saying it gives him assurance that he gets extra credit for being an important piece on the championship team.
Like I said, I don't think that it's crazy. I just don't know that it is going to change it much. I really don't. Because just as I give, when I give Steph this credit, right, for being the man on 3 different championship teams, right,
and the team that lost in the finals,
right, I got to give Rick Barry the same credit for the 1 championship he won,
sure,
and the 2 finals that he made that they didn't win either.
Okay,
so now it is that amount that Curry got over really going to be enough to account for the fact that Rick Barry still made more All-Star teams. He was still on more All-NBA first teams. He was still on more All-NBA second teams. He won a Finals MVP. Curry did not. He won the Rookie of the Year. Curry did not. So,
and I mean, again, that's the case right there. This could be just me and you. I don't think Rookie of the Year matters.
It matters. Any accolade that you attain with a team matters. Now, that's why the point value is lower, though.
Versus a championship team. This is what I'm saying.
It's very low, though. It's very low.
So then it shouldn't be a factor with Curry.
Well, I mean, every point matters.
I think championships should be weighted much more heavily than everything else, and particularly starters for championships. Particularly all-stars for championships. So when you got someone who's an all-star on a championship team, their name should be asterisk, underline, golden letters. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think that. Okay,
so we agree. We don't really have to argue about it.
We agree. I just don't think it'll change.
You ain't gonna change it because I'm right, and that's hard for you.
No.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's part of the reason I love you, man. It's okay. It's part of what makes you unique and special.
Yo, you sound like my father. When my mother would tell him something, he would ask my mother for something that he thought she was supposed to say yes to or acquiesce to, and she would be like, "No, I'm not doing that." He go, "Oh, no problem. No problem. No problem.
I think that's what we are. I think we just became your parents.
No problem. No problem.
I do think I would say I would like the FPVR more if starters and stars on championship teams receive more credit than they currently do.
No.
I think the way it is right now, everybody on a championship team for the championship itself is receiving too similar of a credit, and it shouldn't even be close. In fact, I'm willing to bet, according to did you give Elgin Baylor credit for his championship?
I did.
That is a lot. That is honestly.
That was something that his case is like really an aberration. There really isn't a lot of people out there in that situation
because of the fact that he wasn't a starter on that team.
No. What I'm saying, you're saying that if there was more points given, but like here's the thing, his gap,
actually playing in the championship, yes, more points for that.
His gap over Shaq is fairly large in the point value, so it would even if I took his ring away. Like, because he has his points.
Let's say it doesn't change their places. Would it be more accurate though?
Say it again.
Would it be more accurate?
What be more accurate?
If Shaq got more credit for being a dominant force on a championship team than Elgin Baylor got for retiring in the championship season, would that be more accurate?
So say for instance, if Shaq got 5 additional points on top of the rings, right?
I think
because you get 10.
No, but hold on, because he gets the points for being a starter, and he gets the extra 3 for the PER, and then he gets the points for actually being in the championship game.
Well, how is he not? I think that's double dipping there, because
why not double dip on a guy who was a championship starter or all-star? What's wrong with double dipping on that? That's what I'm not understanding.
Even almost.
I don't understand what's wrong with giving Magic, Kobe, and Shaq extra credit for being all stars and superstars on championship teams.
If you gave, you're talking about that's like 8 points.
Let's say it is 8 points.
And so it's
let's
8
say
points.
It's 10.
So that would be 24 additional points.
Okay.
So that would not catch him with Elgin Baylor, even if I took away.
Okay, so how much is that? And you took away Elgin's?
If I took away Elgin's 3 points for the ring, yes, it would still not.
No, how much would it be? What were the numbers?
Elgin Baylor would go down to a 270.7, and Shaq would go to a 260.5.
Oh, hold on. Now that we have the actual numbers, we're starting to get to within a margin of error, though.
No, we're not. How?
Yes,
because you guys gonna keep on making up metrics. How about if the man got 10 extra points for going to the bathroom on Wednesday?
Because here's the thing. I think the most important things to a franchise are the names that were in lights when they won a ring, and then beyond that, when they had playoff success, and then beyond that, people who had individual accolades.
I contend that is already accounted for.
Not enough.
I think it is already accounted for because here's the thing. This is why we're looking at your statistics. This is why we're looking at your points. This is why we're looking at your rebounds, your assists. This is why we're looking at that. This is why we're looking at your all-star appearances, right? This is why we're looking at if you made an all-NBA first team, all-NBA second team. That right there is telling me who you were on this team. It's telling me that, and you already got that. You want to give them something else all entirely, which is now going over and above. And the thing of it is you are underselling how good Elgin Baylor was.
No.
And here's the thing: it would be different.
It's not a player rating; it's about value.
No, exactly. But here's my thing: you cannot. This is the formula takes into consideration individual statistics, individual awards, team awards, and tenure. All 4 of those things. You're wanting to weight one more than the other. And that's not what the formula does. That's not what the formula does.
Am I willing to weight championships more than other team achievements? Yes. Yes, of course I am. You're right.
And you could make the argument that already is. You can make the argument that is already in place because of the amount of points that are given for postseason participation.
That's for those. No, that's one is one and the other is the other.
No, I disagree. I disagree. I disagree. I disagree. And I don't think that there are any. I think there are definitely some points of contention here, but I don't think that there are any gross missteps in the placement of the players.
Well, my point is, I don't think you lose anything from giving championship players, particularly and when I say PER, I think the top 2, top 3 system is a little oversimplified. I would actually go through history and decide on actual relative numbers that would give more points to. So, for instance, like, an insane PER is like 30, right? And then a really good PER is 20. And then you start to come down to good player below 20, right? These are like guys who are good, but they're replaceable generally. But if that guy is doing that on a championship team, you account for those guys whose PERs could be higher, but they're sacrificing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that brings those things into it, because there's a lot of that going on championship teams. In fact, most veteran players will tell you the number one thing in winning a championship is being able to do enough but allow the other guy to do his thing. And that sometimes means you're not always getting off. You're not averaging 25. Now you're averaging 18, but you're doing it because that's what's going to get you to win. And so this would compensate for that, and also account for those specialists, your clutch shot hitters like Robert Ory and stuff like that, your defensive specialists like Dennis Rodman, your rebounding specialists. They would get more credit for doing that and winning everything, because that's the whole point, is to win everything.
It is the whole point. But like I said, I contend that what you are looking for is already included without this individualization or the specification on these specific roles. I think this is actually already being taken care of. You contend that it's not, because you think that Shaq should be above Elgin Baylor.
No, it's not that Shaq should be above Elgin Baylor. It's that according to what you told me and the gap that was there before, and even based on our rough early numbers, the result that was there after.
Right.
Like Shaq only being 10 points away from Elgin Baylor, that, even according to what it was before, makes more sense. Now, I still think that when you get into real specifics, we have hypothetical numbers we're throwing around, but when you get into real specifics, I don't think there's a negative to giving people extra credit for being extremely heavy contributors to a championship, secondary contributors to a championship, and tertiary contributors to a championship.
And here's what I say. I think that it would only accentuate what's already there.
That's fine. But see, that's not about whether or not it makes it more accurate, because according to what you're saying, we would have to go through every case and be like, which time does it move this up and down? And my thing is, if it makes it more accurate, I'm willing to go case by case and see if anybody switches places and if they should and if they should not. But according to the discussion we've had so far, I think it makes it more accurate.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I think it just makes it more of the same. But I think it makes it more of the same. 1989 says who has the highest FPVR. So if you're talking about the highest FPVR on a specific team and not the highest FPVR overall.
Overall, it would have to be. What's the highest?
The highest, well, because like I'd have to add up a couple of different guys, but Mike has the highest FPVR for one specific team. Michael's FPVR is ridiculous, 430.9.
What's Kobe's?
Kobe's is really high. It's right there. Kobe's is 400.8.
Yeah,
it's really it's super high. Hakeem's is 306.4. Actually, Mel Daniels is number one for the Pacers at 169.1. Reggie Miller's number 2. Chris Paul is number 1 for the Clippers, 130.6. Like I said, Kobe's number 1. Marc Gasol is number 1 for the Grizzlies, 104. Dwayne Wade is number 1 for the Heat at 241, which definitely makes sense. Kareem is number 1 for the Bucks, 207.6. Dr. J is number 1 for the Nets, 164.7. I did include ABA if it was the same franchise. If it's not this, if it was a different franchise, I didn't include it. But if the franchise like just migrated over,
it's a Nets. It's because it's a franchise thing.
yes. Kevin Garnett is number 1 for the Timberwolves at 205.1. Anthony Davis is already number 1 for New Orleans, because the way they split it was everything with the New Orleans Hornets went with the Pelicans. And so that New Orleans Hornets history is so short.
Yeah.
What Davis has already done already puts him at number 1. Ewing is number 1 for the Knicks. Gary Payton is number 1 for the Sonics Thunder, but Westbrook is right on him. Orlando Magic is Dwight Howard. The 76ers is actually Dolph Shays is number 1. Dr. J is number 2. They got the same amount of rings, and Dolph Shays played a lot longer, and the rebounds are higher. The scoring is comparable. And he is not the highest. Now this has nothing to do with rating. So I rated the players based off of their best season, and watching whatever clips they had available of them, looking at their statistics, and just doing the best I could do to try to transform their game to today's game for 2K purposes. Steve Nash is number 1 for the Suns. Clyde Drexler is number 1 for the Blazers. Oscar Robertson is number 1 for the Sacramento Kings, which is the Cincinnati Royals. Of course, Tim Duncan. Oh, Tim Duncan's actually has a higher FPVR than Kobe. He's at 405.7 for the Spurs, and he's number 1. And Vince Carter is number 1 for the Raptors. And Karl Malone is number 1 for the Jazz. And Wes Unseld Nips Elvin Hayes is number 1 for Washington Wizards and Bullets. So like I said, I think the right person is at the top for all of the teams. So,
Well, my final verdict is, I think if championships had more weight and specificity, I would like it. But as it is right now, I think the championships are lumped in a little bit, and they're riding the crutches of what it takes to get to a championship. But I think that extra step of actually winning the championship is what franchises. Those are the banners you hang up.
Mm-hmm.
And they're held in special regard, and I think the system should reflect that more accurately.
I can dig what you're saying. Like I said, I think what our disagreement is, I think that that's already in there.
Our disagreement is,
we would have to. The only way to actually prove, the only way to actually prove that is to go through some of these cases and to apply what you're saying to see if it changes the result.
Yeah,
that's the only way to prove it. So outside of that, but it's my freaking formula, so I'm not gonna change it.
I know, that's where we at. Hey, the people saw, y'all heard what I'm saying, and when y'all get them rosters and y'all not happy with it,
no, they're gonna be happy. I told some dude that was talking about going back and forth with me about Iverson's rating. I said, look, man, it's free. It's free. I said, and if you get it and you don't like Iverson's rating, you can change the heck out of it. You can make it a 99 if you want. But it's free. So it's all good. Don't even worry about it.
No, but that's my final verdict. Yes. Overall, it's not a terrible idea. It's an interesting concept. Change that one thing.
Probably the single longest segment that we've ever had.
This is how, y'all know how it is, man. This is what we do. If normally what would have happened was we would have went off the air and had this conversation, but now y'all get to be a part of it. I hope y'all enjoy it.
This is 1989's doing.
This is an entirely separate episode now. We did 3 shows this week.
Right. It's about that, because we are going up on 4 hours right now. Whoa. Close. So
thank you for everybody riding with us this long. Most of y'all still here. That's much appreciated.
Even Azar left, and he the reason the show even got here.
Cutting up.
Yeah. So all right, guys, I appreciate everybody staying and watching throughout this entire time. As usual, God bless and peace.
See y'all 9 o'clock Eastern next week.